partida de Miramar, a última queda da América Elite League. E sim, eles são os campeões da AEL.
evening, everybody, and welcome on into America's Elite League. And Imperium, before we even get started, this is the penultimate play day. What? Where's the time gone?
Time flies when you're having fun, and good thing time is flying, especially because clocks seem to be working perfectly fine in that regard. And yeah, is your clock working?
I could assure you it is not missed a beat. Not missed a beat, Imperium.
That's an inside joke, by the way, everybody watching. Indeed, America's League Season 5, the penultimate day is upon us. 8 more games for today, for Thursday. Yes, we've pretty much confirmed our champion of Season 5. A little bit unfortunately. However, the race for that kind of, second to 8th is extremely close, right, Gibson?
It really is, and we finished yesterday with Honored Souls coming up into second place, which was a phenomenal day by them. And because the team at the top, our favorite boys, have been so good, Imperium, it makes it so that a day like Honored Souls had today, or yesterday, sorry, we're in Ireland, it's kind of weird, the time's a little bit different, but a day like that could really elevate any of those teams in the bottom half straight into that top 8 as well.
It really does. Let's have a look at the overall standing so we can give you guys a much clearer idea of what we're really talking about. Indeed, 320 points on the board for Influence Rage, 165 placements, 155 eliminations. The perfect balance with this amount of games under their belts. Honored Souls, like you mentioned, jumped right on up to second place. I believe they came into yesterday's set of games in freaking 8th place. So they jumped 6 spots with a total of 76 points across their 4 games. A big glow up.
Yeah, and a day like that again today could really solidify their spot, and even more so Infinity Esports. We touched on them yesterday. They've been so good at getting placement points, but when you look at that elimination feed, they're the lowest on the top 10 by quite a margin.
Yes. Their distribution difference is about 90 something, give or take. That is, one, not sustainable in any real competitive climate, with all due respect to them. And secondly, it's the biggest points distribution difference between placements and eliminations compared to, I would argue, any team in this lobby, for obvious reasons. And like you said, especially when you're looking at the top 10. So Infinity, you got 2 play days left. I'd like to see a little bit more aggression. However, I understand if they're going to stick to what has worked so far.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Tweak it a little bit. Try make it a little bit faster. Paint some go faster stripes on it. Little things like that. Sometimes it works. As we look at our MVP, though, that race is heating up quite nicely as well, as Nino has now jumped ahead of Little Boy, and I imagine it's going to be really tight between those two because they've really caught the eye over the course of the last 6 play days.
Definitely, Little Boy has been increasingly consistent with his performances as well. Now, I know Law tends to play at times a little bit solo for justifiable reasons, and that's why he's not as high up there. Little Boy, within reason, kind of sticks a bit closer to a couple of his teammates for a lot of the engagements, which, look, it's a good split, and again, it's working out for the team. But without a shadow of a doubt, Little Boy is really kind of stood out in my eyes for Influence Rage. And again, the amount of team players we see from Influence Rage in the top of the MVPs, it just highlights how consistent as a team, how strong performing as a team they've been.
They've been so good. That's why they're at the top. It's one of those situations now. You called it like Formula 1 yesterday, where they're so far off at the front. They're running a lonely race right now. But what that means is it makes it a lot more fun in the middle ground. And there's a couple of very good players that, to me, have been underperforming quite a bit as well over the course of America's Elite League. One in particular, Carrillo from Alpha 7. To me, he's not been the same player that he was last season.
definitely. I would put the whole team up there with that. Sometimes when a team isn't performing well, an individual player, such as Creo skill that you justifiably mentioned, can still show up, right? Can still kind of carry that team to a certain level in that regard. Like I suppose we've seen from the likes of Honored Souls and a couple of other teams. But yeah, Creo, something's not working this season of America's Elite League for whatever reason that is, obviously outside of our knowledge. Sometimes players and teams just have a bad run in tournaments. Sometimes it just doesn't go their way from day to day. It's obviously not what you strive for. You strive within reason to improve constantly. However, I don't expect Creo and within reason Alpha 7 to beat themselves up too much over this for a couple of reasons. It's just about learning from some failures, learning from some mistakes they've made, and develop that into a more improved game throughout the rest of the year.
I couldn't put it better myself. You do learn more sometimes from a bad performance than you learn from a good performance, so they'll definitely have something that they can work on going into the rest of this year. Other teams, though, that have really caught my eye for different reasons. Nova have had a very effective tournament so far. I think effective being the key word there. And then you've got VIVO Keyed. And VIVO Keyed, to me, whether they're playing well or whether they're playing badly, they're always exciting. Look at what they were able to do yesterday on Miramar with just 2 men.
Definitely, yes, definitely overall. However, I want to kind of bring yesterday's performance for VIVO Keyed a little bit down to earth. Because the one game they did well was when they were down to 2 players. Every single other game was 2 points, 3 points, and 2 points, right? So when you really kind of strip that good performance away, or not strip it, but take that away, it was a terrible day for VIVO Keyed as a team, right? And compared to the standard that they've kind of set themselves and the standard we expect, it was a poor day. And a bit similar for Nova Esports, right? I was really hoping coming into yesterday's games that both of these teams would be continually putting Influence Rage, or at least one of them, under pressure and, you know, creating hopefully a beautiful storyline coming into the final 2 days. Yeah, we don't always get what we want, just like VIVO Keyed and Nova didn't really get what they wanted to get from yesterday's games. But for VIVO especially, it really wasn't that good of a day despite that strong Miramar result.
Yeah, they're probably a little bit grateful that Nova didn't have a good day at VIVO Keyed as well, because it keeps, you know, those rivals in and around the same point. Other teams that we should really touch on as well are the 4 new teams, as we're going to bring the groups up on as well. It's been a real mixed bag. Infinity right up there in 3rd place. You got Boring Protocol sitting in 9th. Then you have MEXEZIS in 3rd with 153 points. And then the WALLSTREETBETS there at the very bottom. So the new teams, really mixed bag.
Yes, and obviously those teams come with different levels of experience. Boring Protocol, the name doesn't have a lot of experience, but the roster and the players have a lot, and I mean like a lot of experience, whether it's nationally in the form of PMPLs, whether it's internationally in the form of world championships and global events. The roster is stacked, and I kind of expect better, an overarching better level of results from Boring Protocol. I've been really impressed with Infinity. Yes, despite the weakness of the lack of eliminations, I think they've been easily, for justifiable reasons in where they are in the standings, the top 3 most intelligent teams in the America's Elite League, and they've stood out for a lot of their rotational pathlines and their ability to disengage from fights at the right time and play for that strong late game performance.
Yeah, and that is the case. And we are going to look at the format of the America's Elite League tonight. We have 5 groups, which means we've got 20 teams. As you know, we can only have 16 teams a lobby. So every single group will rest one map tonight. And in map number 1, we've got a pretty strong stack of teams sitting this one out.
Well, CHABTAN, Loops, Infinity, and VIVO keyed. So 2 of the top 5 not competing in this first game, and arguably 2 out of the top 7 not competing, with Loops being involved in the mix. And like we touched upon, and as people would have seen in the leaderboard, it's extremely tight down from 2nd place to 9th place, something like 52 points as far as I know, dividing 2nd and 9th. So big scope for the teams who are playing in this first game, such as Honored Souls, Nova, Rise, INCO Gaming, Born Protocol, to at least use this initial game advantage to pick up 10, 12, 11, even kind of 8 points. I think would be somewhat of a solid start for those teams to get ahead of the 3 teams that aren't playing.
Definitely no point having good games in the lobbies with those teams if you're not able to make the advantage count whenever they are not playing. We are moving on into Erangel for the first game of the night, and this is a map that I absolutely love, Imperium, and it looks like we've got ourselves a pretty sweet flight path to get us up and running.
Can't argue. Going down from 5 p.m. to just past 10 p.m. It was split down the middle. You can't ask for a better diagonal playing path, and it's something that we've seen as a pattern in the America's Elite League, that the playing path is generally pretty nice, and the circles is where low-key kicks the teams in the face. We do see a couple of teams going for an early drop around the Novo area. I believe that's INCO dropping down there. They could be the only team heading there. It does seem to be the case, as ATON are shifting their way up north around the Milta power split area, and then we will have XSET probably occupying the farm Milta split.
Yeah, that farm Milta split. One thing as well, that shark fin fight that we've seen so many times over the earlier rounds as well between XSET. It looks like it's not quite kicking off the same way, but it's early going.
Who was that with again? Was that Honored Souls that they would go up against?
It was.
Well, okay, Honored Souls aren't. The Honored Souls are playing in this first game. Yes, they are. And here's the thing. I think a big reason why Honored Souls have kind of, regained a level of strength and regained a level of fire is because they, moved away from the hot drop and they're going for a secondary drop spot. So it's just proof is in the pudding that it's okay to not fight for a drop spot, not fight for a drop area, if it means that your end game result, your end day result, your end tournament result is a lot cleaner.
Yeah, especially when the split wasn't even in their favor at that hot drop either. I think XSET kind of got the 2-1 ratio the last time we saw it. Black Dragons, they're inside Millie as well. That zone shift, Imperium, it's pretty vanilla, I'm going to say, to get us up and running.
Yeah, I couldn't have thought of a better word. I was thinking kind of plain Jane. Vanilla is another way of putting it, right? It does, again, it leaves many parts of the map open to control. You've got Potato Hill, you've got to the west of Headshot Hills, you've got kind of Roshawk Hill, I suppose, if you want to stretch it. You've got down by the coastal line mainland, Pachinki Hill as well. My point is 3 to 5 to 6 areas that you can lock down in the early game. You don't have to commit too deep to the center, and then obviously see where phase 2-3 shifts onwards.
That's where the fun starts to happen. Looks like there may be a bit of fun up on that pizza slice that is Severny as well, as there are 2 teams topping up that one. So I'll be interested to see if there's a gunfight kicking off there in just a few moments as well. Other than that, though, most of these teams more than arm's length away from each other.
I like that Influence Rage have Law kind of rotating away from Yasnaya, picking up a vehicle, kind of preparing for a bit of a cleaner rotation away from the city with the rest of his team. Because sometimes when you drop in Yasnaya, it can be easy to get lost in all the buildings and get slowed down by all the buildings. Now, again, they don't need to move very far, of course. However, again, when you get lost, you stop being as aware, you stop being as focused, and you can get slowed down, sluggish, and teams can take advantage of that. Indeed, it's Delta Stars and MEXEZIS both dropping in severity. It seems like they have either side locked down. With MEXEZIS, it looks like a little bit more under pressure for the time being. They have used that warehouse to kind of stay prone down, but it's a little bit harder for them to disengage away from it, Gibson.
Yeah, Delta Stars look to have the majority of the land inside Severny. It is a situation, though, where these players can stay hidden, but as I say that, Fraggers is making his way on over, and we could be about to see our first gunfight of the day.
Fold. Prone down. I don't think he's being spot out. Now he's going to stand up, start to make a move. Gibson, but he isn't going to take the shots. They go against him, and Frags picks up the knock.
Yeah, Fold has folded down to his knees as MEXEZIS take the first casualty of this gunfight. He will be confirmed out as well. That's one elimination. And I'm looking at the rest of MEXEZIS, and they're not making any moves at all to try and get a revenge. Shots were fired over towards Sarah on the other side of the map, but the two players at the very tip of the pizza, they're just bunkered in right now.
Just like Fold, they're going to have to get their best poker face on.
Oh no.
As they've already suffered a flush.
Oh my god. Well, sometimes you gotta know when to hold them. You gotta know when to fold them. Sometimes you need to know when to walk away. And as Sarah's doing right now, you need to know how to run.
The tough thing about having two teams in South Severny as well is there's limited amount of vehicles directly outside of the city. There tends to be a vehicle on the northern side. However, on the southern side, you do have to kind of run and walk a fair distance most of the time. And that's where I think MEXEZIS are going to feel even more pressured, even more locked down inside the city by Delta Stars. The one thing I would like to see Delta Stars do is actually take advantage of that and push on the aggression, because they have a really good chance to lock down a strong northern side area inside this phase one. However, the longer they leave it, clearly without their potential knowledge, the harder it's going to be if Alpha 7 want to head in their direction for North George, if INTZ want to head towards the edge of that north side of the river from South George, right? So it's something that Delta Stars will and should think about.
Yeah, last thing you want to be is the last team to rotate from that northern section if it does shift south as well. Those bridges can be very dangerous to cross.
That's true.
I am a little bit disappointed though. You know, I thought that Delta, when they have MEXEZIS one player down and you have a good idea of where the rest of them are, I'd like to see them make a more of an attempt to surround them and get those extra kills.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more. That's why I touched upon it in that regard. And I mentioned Potato Hill as a strong area to lock down in phase one. Well, when two teams go for it, that's where action starts to break out a little bit. Potato Hill is a massive area in its own right, but XSET, they want the whole of it locked down for themselves.
They do, and they're not going to be able to do it because they've got nosy neighbors and kindness and the rest of Nova. As Ed J will drop, Z-Fan has fallen as well as Koi gets the knock on to Polo G. Players dropping left, right, and center, but they make very short work out of Nova as XSET pick up that wipe and they take control.
It was a third party from Rise, however, Gibson. They heard the shots, they heard the action, and they took advantage of it from the apartments area. Good play by Rise. I don't know what Nova were doing. Hell, I'm not gonna lie, don't know what XSET was doing. XSET, within reason, were a little bit lucky to get away with that without suffering too many casualties.
Could have been way, way worse. Boring Protocol looking to make things a little bit bad for your second place teams. The Honored Souls as well as Myth makes his way up into the top floor of the garage. Honored Souls, though, spot out Boring Protocol, and it's always so much easier to fight out of a compound than it is to try to fight your way in.
Luzon now getting very close to the end of phase number 2. A few more teams towards the center of the circle than I maybe expected. Nobody's on that kind of South Pachiki Hill and Southeast Pachiki Hill area for the time being. Influence Rage is still in Yasnaya, which I'm a little bit sad about, as that's allowed Lazarus to kind of get ahead of them, and with phase 2 shifting to the west. I'm not saying, look, Influence Rage are who they are, but again, you know, when I expect the best from them, I thought they might look to move away earlier from the city of Yasnaya.
Yeah, jumping back into this fight between these two teams. I would say jumping back into the action, but there's not really any action happening. Delta Stars are wrapping around SAR, though. They've got him in their sights. They're closing that noose, and as it stands, you feel like SAR is just 1 or 2 bullets or 1 or 2 seconds away from falling. But Delta Stars, they're going through the checklist, Imperium. They're not rushing it, and finally they get the kill and clean up MEXEZIS.
Ideally, I'd like to have seen that happen before phase 2 pops up, but still pleased that Delta Stars didn't disengage without cleaning up their backs and making sure they had the area locked down. Good job, and now they can swing into the northern side of phase number 2.
Yeah, phase number 2. It's a nice little shift as well, because I love a bit of Everest action. We may see that as the game goes on. Honored Souls pushing up onto the backflipping the Comet compounds as well. I love these two compounds. Go for the 2-2 split, Imperium, and you can just keep an eye on all those open fields towards Gatka and anybody coming from Pachinki.
2-2 splits when it's kind of where it is in the circle, I think is a bit risky. 3-1 is much more viable in my opinion, because that one player is still going to get a relevant amount of information, and if plays his cards right, can do a good job of puffing up his chest. Whereas 2-2, you have a full squad pushing in. That's going to be so much more difficult to deal with. Yes, your teammates are close by, but at that point, I know you're asking for the worst look, but my point is, at that point, they could be pushed by another team, and then they're going to get blown up. So, Honored Souls 3-1, that's the best of both worlds, locking down both sides of the road.
I like it as long as you keep the vehicles intact and you can make those moves across. Black Dragons on the rotate now too. I'm looking all around the map. Influence Rage heading south as well. Alpha 7 though, they've got a lot of control in and around Cube and those 2 bridges at George.
It makes sense, because with the phase 2 shift, Gibson, right, there is still that threat that it could end on the northern side of the river. That's why I didn't even mention anything about Delta Stars shifting down to the south side of the river. They can use that strong northern side of the river inside this phase 2 to then get information, grab information, and use that to their advantage. Influence Rage have finally started moving in from Yasnaya, and they've gone quite close to Alpha 7 in that cube compound.
I love that cube compound, and if Influence Rage and Alpha 7 could get into a gunfight, I would absolutely adore it. 2 behemoths of the scene. Your champions elect, essentially, against your previous champions as well. So I am all for it, although I have seen that zone shift. And we got ourselves a nice little 50-50 split over that Roshawk River, Imperium. And we now have a little bit of action. Boring protocols shooting towards ATON 7. But as I say, we're going to get some action. Let's just dip back into cover and ATON 7 regroup away.
Like I said, the threat of a north of the river finish was there, but I wasn't expecting it to be such a disgusting shift towards the north of the river. Really the worst shift that the teams could have asked for, never mind the fact that it was essentially a ping pong shift. Again, that river is in play. Great for INCO, as they were already close by the Roshawk on the hillside. They had that split up into a 3-1 if I'm not mistaken, and Arise are getting close to the edge of that hillside.
Yeah, and do you know what really depresses me, Imperium?
Yeah.
Every year that goes by, the DVD bouncing around the corner reference is lost on more and more people, because that's what the zone's doing. Like those old DVD icons, just moves up to the top right, bounces back down to the left, up to the top left. Oh, I love it.
These circle shifts or these similar kind of circle shifts are like back in the day when you had a portable CD player and you would kind of move it a little bit and it would like skip the song or it would like pause it. That's what those kind of circle shifts are like. Just a pain in the ass to deal with.
Oh man, you're bringing back trauma right there. Just about to get the drop in a song, and then all of a sudden, Slim what? Rozhawk being held by Lazarus. I'm looking around the rest of the map as well. Delta Stars coming in from the very north of the zone. Interesting move by Team QUESO as well. They went all the way up and over George Bay and that bridge. They're going to come
intelligent.
Yeah, and some people really underestimate how big a deep blue rotation can be in the late game.
Wider rotation on this kind of awkward circle shift is incredibly intelligent and quite safe. There's still an insecurity around you locking in a position because it takes longer so teams can be ahead of you. But as far as that kind of short-term and leading into more potential long-term success, it's big brain play as Influence Rage suffer 2 casualties.
Law is down. Federal making his way up the side of the cliff, scouting, having a look, seeing what he can see, and he does manage to get his eyes on another member of Vince. And here comes the support little boy. He just road kills 2 members of Ents, and what a way to turn it around. And little boy will just end his way, and Ents are falling apart at the seams now to Influence Rage.
There's a third party from Delta Stars, Gibson, and that makes it so much more difficult for instead of being whittled down to just a solo now. Influence Rage in a bit of a similar position. Delta Stars have struck gold right in the perfect moment as they switch on over to Alpha 7, taking the fight to Honored Souls. It's now outside Phase 4 as that in itself is shifted down to Southwest.
Ooh, Kidney Island is there. Can we get the Kidney Island finish? Honored Souls, God, popping those first aid kits, couple of bandages as well as he just moves his healing hands onto his teammate. But God will fall as a brilliant nade from Alpha 7 does so much damage. Nino prone behind that rock, and the terrain helping him out a little bit here as he will be difficult to spot out. Although Rise now, Nunez is just full sending it as we jump into another fight between Delta Stars and QUESO.
Okay, so this compound is a hotbed of action. Jesus, Team QUESO, right at the perfect moment. Sweetly done as Rise crashing into Watertown, one of the only real solid, safe areas to have inside the circle. But when you're late to the party, it's easier said than done. Rafina gets knocked. It's just Gary X left on his own.
Gary X, he does toss that nade inside. Boring protocol. The vehicle explodes. Will knock Mufasa out of the game now too. 1 second until this res is off, and they've got 2 members back on their feet. Although Watertown becoming a very difficult place to crash. And as I look at the map, there's even more teams joining the party.
Well, yeah, it makes sense, especially when you come in late. Nunez is going to go down. Gary X on a sliver of health. Boring protocol, they finish Rise off. And now they're going to need to prepare very quick because they're going to have the likes of Black Dragons, possibly even INCO, coming in for a third party to lock down Watertown.
Yeah, we'll see what happens though. There is a gunfight going on right now between Black Dragons and ATON Esports. Doxada gets the window to the next round as he gets taken out. Nicholas tossing a nade. Will he peek the other side? Yes, he does. Although the same idea comes through from Milos as Nicholas will drop as well. Martins, he's the last member to fall. ATON 7 managed to wipe out the Black Dragons. And we are already down to 10 teams.
Not surprising considering how disgustingly difficult these circles have to be with. It's created a massive domino effect of teams clashing up against each other when in a much different, much easier circle situation. That wouldn't be the case. ATON and Black Dragon were so on top of each other on the south of Watertown that I didn't even realize that they were both there, and good job by ATON as they dealt with them comfortably. The Blue Zone now getting close to the end of Phase 4, getting ready to shift into Phase 5, and Born Protocol do have Azer across the bridge on the edge of Kidney.
Will it go to Kidney? Will it go north? Will it go south? Couple of players going for a leisurely swim. They'll spot each other out as well. Swagoon on the move for Alpha 7. QUESO took a little bit of damage in that gunfight, and Swagoon's actually getting aggressive on this one, and I am all for it. Switching on over, though, to XSET J. They have lost one member. They've got 4 eliminations, although J now has to be very, very wary, because not only does he have Team QUESO coming in from behind, Alpha 7 are there too. And speaking of the devil, A7 Carrillo gets the knock onto J.
Kidney Island circle shift on phase 5. If you're Team QUESO, if you're LAZARUS, if you're even XSET, if you have vehicles, just full send it into the river and hope for the bloody damn best, because this kind of shift, it's so tricky to make it in. That island has very little hard cover, and if you're there too early, you're going to get stabbed in the back.
And not only that, the healing strat's not going to be awfully effective here either, because the terrain doesn't really give you that many places that you can just hide and heal and wait. XSET. Oh, they're in vehicles. LAZARUS on cue. They make that first jump into the river as well. But they will come up on that shore. You look at that shoreline, Imperium, you'll have a little bit of cover from the ridge, but you step up over it, it's nothing but a field.
Exactly. That's why you just got to stay locked down as much as you can, and yeah, you can be proactive within that small band of cover. But outside of that, you're a sitting duck, and ATON is going to push in to take down uneven aborting protocol. Still Acer left alive, but they're down to 1.
And the question is, how long will he be left alive? A lot of teams closing in on his location. He's got a little bit of a careford, a little bit of rock to play as well. Mafioso's been teasing that bolt shot for ages, and he finally lands it. INCO, they're holding this little building, their last bastion of hope on the side of the island. And XSET still haven't made the move. I'm looking elsewhere. Alpha 7 are there. I think ATON 7 actually, they're pushing up on the Waterstown side of things, and Alpha 7 are really locked in on that western side of Kidney Island.
Why do you think I said if you're on that north of the circle, outside of it realistically, you push in with the vehicles, whether it's on foot, into the river and hope for the best. Yes, you are a fish waiting to be shot in the barrel. However, if you have the vehicle, you're able to stay in the passenger seat and stay alive. XSET left it too late, and they paid the ultimate price.
Terror playing the role of a submarine here as he lays a shell out and goes back under water, torpedoing the hope of some teams, but that'll be that for Team QUESO as VIVO picks one up. This little spot on this ridge is so powerful for Alpha 7. XSET making the move in. And not only that, LAZARUS have also touched on to this D-Day. This, you know, what was the beach? Normandy? Was the beach in Normandy, right? That's what it feels like right now.
You asked Creo you kind of said that Creo's been a little bit disappointing. Well, he's got 3 eliminations so far. LAZARUS are down. XSET managed to stay alive. Props to them, because I didn't think it was going to go their way in toward the end, as INCO are still alive as a full squad.
They have all 4 members up. The zone shift, though, didn't work their way, but I really like what they've done. They've sent Becker over the road already. Sorry, not Becker. Nenny has gone across the road already.
Yep.
Becker's laying down some pain onto Alpha 7 on the other side. A very important job for Nenny, though, is to use his smokes and lay down some cover and fire for the rest of his team to cross this river.
The team that is realistically going to stop them is ATON. ATON have crossed that river as a full squad. I love that Golden and Becker were behind, but only having Mbete there across the river was very risky for them. However, they do all make it along.
We got 3 teams left, a little triangle of agony as these players spread out along the edges of Kidney Island. Mafioso, the first one to push deep onto the island, and he will hold this tree. Nen got that nade in hand, and look at that nade. One of them will get a knock, and Choco takes the fall. More utility being dumped back and forward here, Imperium. And this all plays into the hands of Alpha 7.
All they have to do is third party in all of the right ways, and that's exactly what they've done. A player of ATON down, a player of INCO down. The spread from Alpha 7 is wild, and it seems like they're back at their best. It doesn't help them in the moments as Revo gets knocked. Becker's in, is going to take the fire. Milos is down. I believe that leaves ATON with left as solo.
Just one player left. INCO turning their attention to Korea. Now Alpha 7 have taken a casualty in this one as well. Then, unable to find the shots that matter. Swagoon is rotating around now too. Then just hoping that something will land, and he actually did hit a shot. But he is not to know. 24 seconds have gone. We're inside phase, or 24 minutes have gone. We're inside phase 6. And I'm just looking at that map. Mafioso is locked down the road as Revo unleashes pain onto INCO.
Going for the revive was risky, but they make themselves back as a full squad. Alpha 7 stronger as a unit. Nembede is doing a solid job of trying to separate the unit of Alpha 7.
They're doing their best. The zone shift goes deep into the middle of the island as well. Alpha 7 with the most to gain with that zone shift. Good nade coming in. Nenny drops down to the knees as well. INCO under a lot of fire, but look
Beautiful.
at this. Romulosen hit back hard. These teams sustaining knocks everywhere you look. And Fran96, he just chilling. He's having a great time.
He's not going to have a great time for long. Look how far away he is from the circle, and he has to cross the road with that. The best he can hope for is that INCO and Alpha 7 do enough damage on each other that he's able to hold on. Speak too soon.
And they fall in third place. 2 remaining sides. INCO crawling their way in through the long grass, hoping to not come across any snakes or any monsters. Sometimes the best thing to do is just keep your head down and then strike at the right moment as Romulosen annihilates 2 members of Alpha 7. 1 member, sorry, of Alpha 7. Turning his attention over to the tree now, Imperium and Carrillo. Romulosen looked at the wrong time.
The smoke's covering 3v3. INCO have 2 players looking in the direction of the duo together, so realistically it's 2v2, 1v1.
I am all for it. Revo sprinting. Becker gets 1 down. Carrillo has fallen as well. Alpha 7's hopes lay on the shoulders of Revo 77. Steps on up, sprays onto Golden, and back down onto the stomach. Keeping moving, keeping agile. You shoot from one place, you relocate to the other. So that those members of... Oh no. Becker finishes off Swagoon. Here comes the blue zone, though. This may help Revo in his quest for the win. And there's another member of Alpha 7 confirmed out. Very tense. Now 1 member of Alpha 7 left. Romulosen, though, is a very good idea of where he is. So does Becker. Revo confirms out Golden, makes a little bit more noise. And once again, that will train the attention his way. Although Imperium, if the 2 INCO players stand up at the one time, really there's no way that Revo can win.
The tiny dip in the low ground is to keep him Revo alive. And I don't think INCO know exactly where Revo is, despite hearing shots in the direction of where Revo was. And both teams, to be fair, do have to make it into this Phase 8 circle.
Yeah, Revo, though, I like the way he's moving to get some form of hard cover as he gets behind those big tree trunks. Looks like Romulosen has spotted him out. And Revo took some damage. He's up, he's crouched, he's cooking an aid. This engagement getting ready to go. Revo makes it a 1v1. And just like that, winner, chicken dinner, INCO Gaming get the dub. And that is a brilliant way for both of these sides to kick off the penultimate playday.
Despite it being a ridiculously tough circle for a lot of these teams to deal with and it ending on Kidney Island, I gotta say that was a brilliant finish. Well done to both INCO and Alpha 7. Not without mistakes from both teams. More heavily in the direction of Alpha 7, Gibson. They got too involved in the fight between ATON and INCO, right? All they had to do was just shoot from a little bit of distance, maybe send one player forward, but they tried to hold both angles in the right direction, and they kind of paid a big price for it when it all came down to it. Revo did a great job on his own, and the one mistake that kind of INCO really did make is that when the step up came up off the back of seeing Revo in the tree, his teammate wasn't there to support him in the best way, so the knock happened by Revo. In the end, prone down, the shots connected enough to give the chicken dinner to INCO.
Yeah, brilliant performance by them. 10 eliminations too. Nice tally of 25 points. Just 1 point behind what Alpha 7 got in 26 points. You did say, though, they tried to do a little bit of movement on Kidney Island. And, you know, I'm going to say this because it's true in every single sport, Imperium. Sometimes the best movement is to not move at all. And
yes.
Had Alpha 7 not tried to spread out and take full control of that zone whenever there was still 3 teams left, they more than likely would have got that win.
Pretty much. Still a great result from Alpha 7. We kind of need to recognize that, right? For a team that have had a big struggle bus over the whole of America's Elite League Season 5, but specifically the last couple of days, that was definitely a big return to form as we look at the individual stats of our winning team in the form of INCO Gaming. 10 eliminations, 8 knocks, over 2,000 damage. They did a lot of work and they reacted to the circle shifts in a pretty positive way. I believe coming into the end of Phase 2, they had that kind of Rosshock Hill area to themselves, and then when Phase 3 shifted up to involve a lot of Watertown and Kidney Island, they made the right move of actually being across the road from Watertown, which is a much harder compound to breach when you're in that kind of circle.
It was, and then they had the master stroke of sending Nene as the lone soldier onto Kidney Island to provide cover for the rest of the players to cross. That whole game hinged as well on that fight with ATON 7 on the southern side of that island. Your MVP of that one is Revo, 7 eliminations, 1,600 damage, and you know, Alpha 7, it's not a surprise to see a member of Alpha 7 being your MVP. 7 eliminations though, regardless of who you are, what team you play for, is a brilliant tally.
Wow, 1,600 damage for Revo. Like, that's incredible as an individual player. That's more than what whole teams would get. That's nearly double what whole teams would get. And again, they got 14 eliminations. It was a great team performance in this first game of the day, despite not getting the chicken dinner. Shoutouts as well to INCO, Romulozan, there you go, did a lot of work for his side.
Yeah, really good game. 6 eliminations. We had quite a few players with good elimination tallies. Fragger's got 5 as well, and Korea, we spoke about him. He got 4. So all in all, a very good game by a couple of individual players. Looking at those health stats, because you know they're the sort of thing we look at from time to time. Korea, 269 HP, but Imperium, we're about to see that overall standings. The points have been tallied on up. And do you think we're going to see some movers and shakers?
We certainly will. I expect Alpha 7 to have jumped up a couple of spots, and indeed they made it into the top 10. Rise, who were one of the teams that we were kind of looking at to potentially have made a bit of a push up, actually dropped down to 7th. They were in 6th, so they actually lost a position. That's because of INCO Gaming's incredible result. With the amount of points they got with that chicken dinner, that's jumped them up from 8th place to 3rd. That's why we talked about the leaderboard being so close between 2nd and 8th place. All it takes is one strong result like INCO did to boost you multiple spots up the standings.
Yeah, I really hope INCO can continue to have a great day. Although map number 1 is already gone. I don't want to use the same airport reference as I did last time, though, Imperium. just going to throw it to a break right now. The clock keeps on ticking over the course of America's Elite League. I see that little smirk, Imperium. I got you.
I like it.
But we are moving in to game number 2 of the night. And the sad thing for me is we've just got 10 games, less than 10 games left this season as a whole. And off for INCO.
What do you mean? What do you mean less than 10 games? You've got 7 games left.
Yeah, less than 10.
No, we've got 9 games. 7 games left per team. My apologies. I'll shut up now.
Yeah, less than 10.
Sorry.
I do feel sorry for INCO, though. You go ahead, you have an absolutely banging game like that. Game number 1, you're feeling yourself, and then you've got to take a 30-minute break. Oh, I feel bad for them. Wall Street Bets, though, they could probably do with an early break after the last map.
INTZ as well could possibly do with a overall little bit of a break as we head into the second game of the day. It's going to be on the desert dunes of Miramar. For the final 2 days, it's all Miramar and Erangel. We have finished with Sandhawk off the back of yesterday, so expect some wonderful gameplay across these 2 maps of the final 9 games in the America's Elite League Season 5.
Yeah, and surprisingly, something you shared on yesterday that really impressed me, because it's something that I never really considered before, is the fact that when we go to Miramar, you actually see more early game engagements than whenever we do go to Sandhawk.
Yes, just simply because of the focus on those hard compounds that are inside the map that are easily accessible, depending on the plane path in that regard. Le Corbiere is one of those that are going to get hot dropped on. It is Delta Stars having that all to themselves. I say Cruz Avaya / Toya Almada will be kind of held onto by Infinity as they shift their way up north. The plane path is obviously a little bit tougher for teams that want to utilize that more southerly side of the map.
Yeah, and for Infinity, they are hoping that that zone shifts towards La Drillera because that's where they get most of their points. Whenever they're as far away as they can possibly get from the first zone, those are the games that they capitalize on those placement points. I am noticing, though, a lot of teams gamble that the zone will go south with their jumps, and it has shifted down towards Los Leones.
A little bit towards the southeast, not too heavily southeast that it's too painful to deal with. Lazarus, Alpha 7 El Pozo, the battle of the ages that we've seen time and time again in these Miramar games of America's Elite League. No team wants to give it up. No team wants to let it down. No team wants to turn around and desert each other.
No team wants to tell a lie or even say goodbye, Imperium.
I swear to God, I've commentated with many commentators, like quite a good few, I'm lucky to say. And I've used that reference, used that quote with the majority of them. And never have I had a co-commentator actually follow up with another line from that song. So thank you, Gibson. You made my day.
Is it bad that I like that song a little bit?
Who doesn't? It's a classic, like. It's an absolute classic.
This is another one of those references some people won't get. But this reminds me of back in the day when everyone said, "Oh, I don't like Fall Out Boy." Everyone liked Fall Out Boy. They just didn't want to admit it.
Well, yeah, because they weren't a cool band to like, right? They were, if anything, a cool band to not like in that regard. And it's not until like 10, 15 years later that people are like, yeah, I love Fall Out Boy back then. You know, they were just ashamed to admit it.
Shame to admit it. And we've got one of our teams falling apart before halftime as Alpha 7 do drop a nade on, and Lazarus, though, fighting back. Lion. Oh, we're just watching those members of INCO. They struggled a little. Was that Honored Souls? They struggled a little bit with getting onto that little trike. Oh, do you remember when this used to be called the Flippy Boy?
No, I don't remember that.
We used to call this the Flippy Boy because you had the Speedy Boy, which was the motorbike, and the Flippy Boy, which was the trike. And you can guess why.
Yeah, I can definitely guess why. Now, I don't know if it's the same now. As far as I know, it is. But if you shoot out that solo tire, it is a lot easier to control that tricycle, and it doesn't flip as easily. Still in pain in the ass, and not a vehicle I would recommend, to be fair. But you got to deal with what you have in front of you in the start of the game, and hopefully they'll be able to find a more secure vehicle to deal with. Alpha 7, like you said, dealt with Lazarus in a cool, confident way, but they're going to have the likes of Team QUESO, who did disengage away from Monte Nuevo, by the way, and didn't look to really take the fight with XSET. They're now much closer to Alpha 7.
Yeah, it's easy. You leave the fight with XSET, you're NA champions, and you make your way north to fight Alpha 7. It's choose your poison for Team QUESO right now, although that gunfight is still going on between Lazarus and Alpha 7, and they could be the benefactors, the beneficiaries, as Mafioso drop shots into this engagement. He falls, and is that for Alpha 7? It is.
Wait. I apologize once again. They were so on top of each other, and they're so similar in the team colors of our spectator mode that I didn't realize that Lazarus was still alive, so I got that information horribly wrong, and they end up coming out on top of Alpha 7. I still say there's a relevant pick your poison for Team QUESO, possibly easier poison to swallow in the form of Lazarus. The one thing is that Lazarus did not suffer a casualty. They are back up as a full squad inside the city.
Yeah, all 4 members still alive, although now they need to find the meds, because when you get into a prolonged fight in the early game, you don't really prioritize those secondary backpack items, the med kits, the utility. It's all guns and ammo. And look at this trifecta that Team QUESO have just set up, and they get a knock straight off the bat. Imperium, and Nitsu is in a fantastic position.
By the way, I don't hold this against Lazarus at all. Yes, you could argue that when you take a fight that you make noise and potentially teams can take advantage of that. However, never in an America's League Miramar game have I seen Team QUESO actively move towards El Pozo. Like I said, they've always had the hot drop with XSET. They've always had to kind of win that fight against XSET and Monte Nuevo before moving into the circle. And again, this phase 1 is opposite direction of El Pozo. Luckily, the revive comes through, but in that time, Team QUESO have been able to at least send Ayala flanking on the side. One problem is that the rest of Team QUESO, bar Nitsu, isn't really there to follow that up in as quick of a way as I would like.
It's high risk, high reward. It's a move that's got a really, really low floor and a really high ceiling. They get picked apart one by one, and it's a fail. If they manage to pop at the right time and pick apart Lazarus like they've just started to do so, it is a massive win, and Team QUESO reaping the rewards of that very aggressive play.
Get the knock, get the elimination, reposition into a safer area of terrain. It's going to shake Lazarus a lot more. It's going to suppress them. It's going to essentially allow you to blanket them and keep you in firm control. Once again, Team QUESO still up as a full squad. Good job, Ayala. A little bit of a risk, and like you said, high risk, high reward. That reward has been able to come through for the time being. The blue zone is about halfway through. You can see teams are a little bit closer to it that aren't in the circle, like a Delta Stars Infinity. Parts of this phase 1 to really kind of lock down is definitely that western high ground, that eastern high ground of Los Leones. However, nobody's there for the time being. Nova did not, I believe, really go for the full hot drop onto Loops. Loops are down to 2 players, but that's not actually at the hands of Nova, because Nova are on 0 elimination so far, and they've only come into this game as a 3-person team.
Yeah, I'm starting to think maybe they had their own connection issues. Maybe someone else got involved. I didn't quite see anything happening on the kill fight, so you've piqued my curiosity as to what actually happened there. Looking elsewhere around the zone, Impala getting pretty busy right now as MEXEZIS, and I think that's Rise or down that section of the map. A zone like this, it's a funny one, because you have Picado, you've got Los Leones, you've got La Bandita, you've got Minas Gerais and San Martin. Lots of absolutely massive urban areas inside the circle.
A few of those you mentioned, in theory, make sense because the circle could head in those directions. Yeah, Picado Hill would probably be one of the solid areas, despite it being further away from the center. However, kind of San Martin and Hacienda as areas to lock down are going to be more for a very passive team. As it happens, Delta Stars are heading that direction, so that's certainly a proven concept for the time being. Phase 2 pops up. It centralizes quite nicely, so still that Picado Hillside is in play. A good chunk of that eastern side of the train, or southeastern side of the train, has been chipped away.
Yeah, a little bit of it chipped away. But most of those big areas that I just mentioned are still being kept inside it. Nova taking control of the side of La Bandita Bowl, which I like in the late game. I'm not a big fan of it in the early game. Imperium, we will, though, see XSET fighting with BULUC, CHABTAN, Polo G. Steps in behind that June again. These players are a little bit spaced out, but XSET in a very good position to strike.
VIVO Key, they're close by, a little bit north of BULUC CHABTAN. Surely they've got to hear those shots. They can get involved for a little bit of an easy peasy lemon squeezy third party. I'd like to see that happen.
Oh, I would absolutely love to see. I just love third parties. I really enjoy it when teams get aggressive and just be like vultures. Pick up the pieces. Get all those extra points. XSET looking to add to their point tally in this game, which is currently a 0. So anything from this point will be very good for them. BULUC CHABTAN have one elimination on the board, as they did take advantage of the early stages of this fight.
XSET have either got to make the decision of take the fight or disengage. I would argue BULUC CHABTAN needed to do the same thing. Both teams have decided to do that, and they are disengaging away from each other. Very surprised VIVO Key didn't get involved. I don't know how much they heard. I really believe they would have heard at least some of those shots. They seem like they're comfortable where they are. I did want to highlight probably what is the strongest position inside this phase 2, and arguably could be for the whole game, is the top of Graveyard. The high ground that's just across Arminas, where Boring Protocol are, is kind of the most important area of this phase 2. It's high ground. It gives you great scope on the north, to the northeast, to the northwest, to the west. And again, it's going to be easy access on phase 3, phase 4, phase 5 circles.
It will be an ease of access. It's something these players love. I like to say it, Imperium. You know, I'm not calling it a crutch. It's the saying that I have. Mobility is winnability. So keeping vehicles, keeping your options open, and being able to move as soon as the opportunity arises is something the very good teams do. VIVO Key, they're taking control of this bit of high ground as well, Imperium. And as their camera just swoops down like an eagle, like maybe more like a blimp because it's a little bit slow, they have got themselves massive lines of sight across the map.
A great spread. It's not too far apart. It's not too close together. Just right, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Phase 3 is getting close to being exposed, and it's a big shift down south. A very big shift at that. Going to put a lot of pressure on the teams up north. Unfortunately, Boring Protocol, it's a shame because I kind of bigged up their position. Yes, they're still close to the entry point of the circle, but unfortunately that Graveyard high ground is outside of phase 3.
Oh, McGrellin. He just interrupted your point ever so meanly with a beautiful barrage of bullets over the hill. Honored Souls, they have turned their attention to BULUC CHABTAN. Pretty much the exact same spot that we saw XSET fighting in earlier. And you spoke about that high ground by Graveyard being incredibly powerful. Well, PUBG, the same way that the players, I think, listen to us and try to prove us wrong, I think the PUBG gods have. And all of a sudden, we've got a very different landscape.
This does make the edge of La Bandita Bowl a lot more controllable, though, right? More on that northeastern side of it, maybe a little bit on the west, where you have a couple of hard compounds as cover. I believe MEXEZIS Dreams are there, as far as I know, and I'm not sure who's in the orange, but those two areas are pretty solid inside the circle.
Really good positions to play in. This is when I spoke about it earlier. Bandita Bowl, as you get later into the game, is so powerful because that ridge is just such a position of power. Although with these teams being located the way they are, we may have a bit of a fight on our hands to see who can take it. There is a great bit of scouting being done here by GC God, and don't underestimate, Imperium, how important scouting can be, and God's doing a great job of just keeping his head below that ridgeline too.
Discipline in PUBG Mobile is such an essential skill that a player needs to develop. When you're starting off as a player in a little bit of a casual way, you go in all guns blazing, you within reason take every single fight, you kind of think in a narrow-minded perspective. Then when you start moving into competitive and you get punished for mistakes and you step out of the line, you're gonna get exposed. You take shots in the wrong way, you're going to get exposed. That discipline plays a key part. He did take a couple of shots onto one of the Team Queso players that was on the roof. I don't disagree with that because even though he technically exposes his own position, that will suppress Team Queso because they'd made the active decision of going onto the roof in the thought that it was a very clear space to have that roof locked down. And now that they've had shots against them, they're going to be less likely to spread out a little bit too far away from those buildings, and therefore they are going to be more manipulated into a corner.
Yeah, he has the high ground too. Lux just lost whatever but a high ground he had as he falls down. Infinity Esports and Delta Stars, two of the teams that I have seen fight quite a few times going head to head, although we're looking at a different gunfight right now. Honored Souls and Team QUESO. One member is down. GC God extended his stay a little bit too long, and it looks like Honored Souls are just reassessing their options as that zone moves north again as Achilles takes shots onto Delta Stars.
Nice. Molly coming through, and Delta Stars whittled to just two-man team. They use the smokes. They have one either side. By no means is it absolutely secure for Infinity, as these two teams do need to move into the northern edge of the circle. It's important that they finish this fight up as quickly as possible. That's a beautiful nade from Achilles.
Oh, top nade right there. Fraggers behind the rock. Achilles, look, I love the fact that he initially strafed back and forwards to put fraggers off. And then when fraggers got used to that pattern movement, he just hunkered down. Prone, finished them off. Great job by Infinity. Although with the zone shift going like that, that Lab Endita Ridge once more becoming even more important, as it looks like Influence Rage are about to fight Infinity for it very, very soon.
It's Rise getting close to Influence Rage inside the bowl. You could call it the soup mixture buildings in the center of La Bandita. Easy to get into, very difficult to disengage from, and Influence Rage has a little bit more of a disengagement scope and a bit more area to control. However, Rise are pushing in.
Yeah, they're targeting the solo member Federal upstairs. He's peeking round the corner though. He will step out when the time is right. Although he stepped out when the time was wrong, just as I said it. Defensive molly thrown, which allows him the opportunity to jump in the back door. Although the same idea came out from the members of Rise, and Federal is forced to dip into some cover. Utility dump being used as the members of Influence Rage try to corral Rise into a position. And watch out, watch out, watch out, as Nova are peeking over that other ridge as well.
You make the noise, you're going to get spotted out indeed and attract the attention of the other teams, especially in a circle as small as phase number 4. Nade being cooked up by Law. That's a beautiful pre-nade. Does connect onto a player Rise, puts him down to half health.
Yeah, puts them down to half health and once again further corrals them into a weak position that Influence Rage can capitalize on. Law peaks at the right time, as does Kowski. Molly through the window, and Rise are surely about to go down, and here comes Nova. Well, never mind.
I thought that was going to be a little bit of a self molly onto the players of Influence Rage, or off the back of the molly being thrown in by Law. Either way, that's a good push onto Rise, good defense, and that was the advantage of having one or two players outside of those buildings.
Yeah, they love that. They basically worked like a shepherd, pushing Rise into the position that they wanted them to be in. Nova, they've got themselves in a very interesting spot right now with the split that they're holding. Z-Fan just keeping an eye towards that engagement happening towards the south of the circle too.
Very difficult with that circle shifting up north, centering onto the compound locked down by MEXEZIS. The teams down south, it's do or die. You got to grab as many eliminations as you can, because there's very little very little chance that you're going to make it into the southern edge of the circle.
Yeah, XSET are there. BULUC, CHABTAN, LAZARUS, Team QUESO. Also, not to mention the fact that Z-Fan from Nova is gatekeeping all the while. Honored Souls 2 are waiting to see what happens. Nino jumping. Ayala gets a knock onto Alpha Esports, and Nino peaks at the right time. Two members of Team QUESO have dropped now as that kill feed is really starting to pop.
Great job by Honored Soul. They recognized that there was a team to the south of them, and as much as their journey was going to be difficult, making into a circle, the team behind them was always going to have a harder chance. So they take the opportunity to wait and strike, and that puts Team QUESO down to a solo. But now, as the blue zone starts to close in, Phase 5 is a little bit of a pain in the ass to deal with, so they're going to have to start to make a move. It's Team QUESO wiped out.
Oh, Koi gets the kill and drops straight into some cover. Kindness. Gotta worry about Influence Rage coming from behind. Come on, Federal. There we go. Adrian comes on in. But, oh no. It's not looking good for Nova. As the little boy pushes up that hill now too. He takes a lot of damage. Influence Rage fighting so hard to control this ridgeline.
I think Nova's too heavily split, and that's really gone against him in the defense against Influence Rage. Honored Souls trying to fight in against XSET. It's so difficult, and XSET are able to do what Honored Souls did to Team QUESO.
Yeah, XSET holding their ground on the way in. Polo G spotting out BULUC CHABTAN. VIVO keyed drop in 9th place now too, so not the best performance by them. 3 eliminations on the board. Law continuing to push up that ridge and drop into cover every single time. Kiowski's job, vitally important. Playing the off angle, playing that man, the anchor. And it's his job to spot any heads that come up while these two guys toss all that utility over the ridge.
Circle, centers up. The cluster teams on the east. It's going to be so difficult for them, and that's why I look at Boring Protocol, despite them having to make it into a circle, as a team that could claim this chicken dinner, because they only have one team in front of them.
One team, XSET, turn their attention onto Nova, and a little bit of help from your friends, and Influence Rage, see them drop. Although now, Kill Switch, he should be an easy steal for Law, and he is. XSET, probably the biggest losers of that zone shift. Loops now, they've been quiet. They got to move now too. And there's 18 players left alive.
Loops were put down to 2 players early on, so of course they were going to be quiet as Spec looks to push in, and Molly is going to at least whittle BULUC CHABTAN down to a solo. Not much they can do as Spec loses his life. Boring Protocol now just 3 players up.
Yeah, uneven on top of the ridgeline, scouting, seeing what's going on. Law, oh, it's a little bit tough for XSET as they go out now in 6th place as well. We've got 5 teams left. Influence Rage, Boring Protocol, BULUC CHABTAN, Loops, and MEXEZIS. And Boring Protocol, 8 eliminations on the board already. They didn't turn up yesterday. They've turned up today.
They certainly have indeed, and that's why I kind of put them as a team in this game too, based on positioning to potentially get the chicken dinner. Influence Rage are certainly going to look to stop them. MEXEZIS hold on to the compounds that are inside the circle. Influence Rage doing a good job of covering the backs, but now they have to cover the fronts.
Will they be capable of doing it? Loops on the move off of the distance. MEXEZIS though, could they be one step too far? For Influence Rage, they've been absolutely phenomenal over the course of the season. A Lion Kid from BULUC CHABTAN, he's playing his little hut. He's just having some fun, and the fact that they've still got 2 members up, they too could climb up a couple more placements as well, because they've got some nice terrain.
They do, and Boring Protocol realistically missed a massive opportunity to clear out that western side and clear out BULUC CHABTAN. When Spec was on his own, he shouldn't have been in that position on his own. Off the back of the molly knock, he should have been team players swarming forward to get rid of BULUC CHABTAN. It's not going to be the case. Uneven, he goes down.
Uneven, and that leaves things a little bit uneven for the whole team now. Law, MEXEZIS, they're completely turtled on in, just like, you know, just like the fella who went to the party with a girl on his back. He says he was turtle because that's Michelle on his back. You know, it's too bad of a joke. Sorry.
That's too bad of a joke. However, I will still accept it. I'm not going to accept the fact that MEXEZIS have 0 eliminations in this game. If they're going to win, if they're going to clean it up, they have to be able to pick up those eliminations. They've been gifted the circles. Now they have to use that gift and turn it into a well-wrapped present for a chicken dinner.
Yeah, the biggest thing for them is the fact that Influence Rage used most of their throwables in that engagement with Nova, which means it's very difficult for Influence Rage to push into this compound. Well, look, CHABTAN, the zone worked really hard against them. But do you know who does have utility? Loops.
You said Loops are being quiet. They had to. But now they can start to make a little bit more noise, recognizing that there's only 10 players left in the lobby.
And players left. Azor being very brave, going for that drop with BULUC. CHABTAN on the edge. A Lion Kid almost gets decapitated, but is still alive in the fight. And there's a lot of fight inside them whenever they get the opportunity. More utility being numped. Azor from Boring Protocol peeks his head up at the right time, back into the smoke. And that's guerrilla warfare at its finest.
Boring Protocol helped with a little bit of distraction from loose BULUC. CHABTAN are sandwiched a circle, like you said, disgustingly against them. They still have a little bit of time, but phase 7 is going to put them under pressure.
Yeah, that zone, it's going to really, really hurt them as they move, and it's just pushing them in towards Azor. Loops have fallen back behind the ridgeline of that compound as well, so they've got a lot of cover. Influence Rage have a lot of cover. But MEXEZIS are the team that's going to be needed to be evicted if you want to win. There's Azor once more on the double, wiping out BULUC, CHABTAN, and Toiko. Actually, Toiko helped out from afar.
Yes. I thought Loops were more focused on MEXEZIS, and I didn't think Acer was going to survive, but by God, did the timing. The cock was perfect for Acer to stay alive.
Azor gets the med kit in, and that will allow him the opportunity to move on in. Although Influence Rage on one side, Loops on the other, MEXEZIS just, they're moving, they're making a lot of noise, but they're not over peaking. They're playing incredibly passive, and Little Boy will open up and ring that dinner bell.
Like, if you play so passive, you're going to get sandwiched. And when you get sandwiched, you're going to get eaten up. That's what we are seeing right in front of our eyes with MEXEZIS. There's no way they should have allowed Influence Rage to get to that compound. There's no way they should have allowed Loops to get so close to him on the edge of the hillside. With all due respect, MEXEZIS do not deserve to get to win this game.
Although they just might. They really might. Law prone. Little calm before the storm right now. Smoke grenades being thrown. Azor could be the one that really kicks things off. And from the position he is in, nobody can see him, but he can see quite a bit. Law.
Third-person perspective is just so important when you're getting into these final moments.
Yeah, and now Loops have picked the time to push up. Demon Ore almost got caught with the nade in his hand, but very quickly drops to the ground and gets another member of MEXEZIS down. While all this is going on, I'm looking to the rest of the map. Are Influence Rage getting aggressive? And they actually are. Loops are taken out. Influence Rage now in prime position to take advantage of it. Fold is down. Tanks is down. Ser is out in the open. And do not put it past the solo member. Oh no, look at that spray by Ser. Don't put it past Azor to win this.
1v2, he's going to push down the hill. Just one player left. He has LMG3. That does a hell of a ton of damage. He's going to be sandwiched. It's not going to be enough. And Influence Rage, they take the chicken dinner.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Influence Rage. Not for the first time. Not for the second time. Not for the third. Not even for the fifth time over the course of the season. Picking up the maximum available placement points. And it's just a clinic once more as to why they are your top team this season in America's Elite League.
Definitely. Individually, their ability to make sure that they had every single angle covered was perfect. But make no mistakes, they were handed that late game position by MEXEZIS. MEXEZIS might as well have rolled out the red carpet. For Influence Rage, they made it so easy. And Influence Rage took full advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed with MEXEZIS. They're not a bad side. There's a reason why they're in the league, and I just expect a little bit more for them. They did fight off Loops, but that was a 3v2, sorry. You expect them to win that with the compound. In reality, the biggest thing that they can learn from that is don't be so passive. Keep an eye out all of those windows, and if you think that a team's going to try push up into the same compound as you, don't give them that opportunity.
No, exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Great effort by Acer as the final player protocol. It deserved second place in position, and following the 9 eliminations, 21 points. Kudos to Boring Protocol.
Kudos to them. 21 on the board. Like you said, MEXEZIS picking up 12. The 10 places points, those 2 members of Loops, the players they were able to find. And really, I'm starting to think Vivo, Keed, and Nova don't want to get into that top 3, because once again, only 4 and 3 points for them respectively. Honored Souls, the team sitting in second, only picking up 3 as well. And Lazarus, they're slowly but surely getting better and better over the last 2 days, as they still managed to pick up another 6 points for them too.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Nova and Vivo Keed. It's the throw of the century. I don't know. I'm struggling to find it into to put it into words. I suppose for me, I'm more focusing on the teams that are taking advantage of that. The likes of Rise, although they got 0 points that last game, but overall the likes of Rise, the likes of INCO, who aren't playing in the second game, but they certainly did take advantage of it in the first game. Because to me, you know, I'm better off thinking glass half full and putting the positive weight onto the teams that are showing up.
Yeah, Loops hitting double digits as well. They are. I don't know what it is about them. They're just such a late tournament team, and you feel like if they could put the first couple of play days together the way they seem to put the last couple, they'd be in a much better position. Let's dive on into the Influence Rage stats though. 13 eliminations, 10 assists, 2k damage, and they're keeping above that, you know, that 50% ratio of eliminations to damage. And, you know, you've probably never heard any caster ever bang on about it as much as I do have, Imperium.
It's Influence Rage just doing Influence Rage things, and it's good to see Law be the MVP of this game specifically, because I touched upon how at times he plays a bit solo. I know they were in some very tricky positions where they still had to support each other the right way. They couldn't play maybe some heavier splits as they would in other situations. It's great to know that they're adaptable in those moments, and they're still able to stand out, stand tall, and once again increase their lead. That is a 110-point lead over second place. 110, Gibson. Like, I repeat, 110.
Yeah, take 110 points away from second place, and you're dropping all the way down to 17th. That's how dominant Influence Rage have been. They're on track by, I would say, the first or second map on Thursday evening to hitting 200 eliminations. They've been that dominant. And as I look down through that column on the left, and I look down through the column in the middle, you know, your placing points and your eliminations, they are so dominant and so clear of everybody else in both.
Yeah, simply put. The race is still on between second and, I kind of want to say 10th. I feel like if it was any other team, I wouldn't include them, but Alpha 7 being who they are and the lineage and the history they have and how they can turn things up when it needs to be, they need to be included. You're talking 51 points dividing second and 10th place with 8 games remaining, 6 for each team. That's a very possible opportunity for Alpha 7 to climb finally up where they realistically should have been in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree with you more. We are going to get ready for game number 3. So we're jumping to a break, which gives you the opportunity to go to that Play Store, go to the Apple Store, download PUBG Mobile, and have a little bit of fun with it. And we'll see you guys very soon. Hello everyone and welcome back into the America's Elite League. If you're just joining us now, we are almost at the halfway point of tonight's broadcast. That man beside me, the very famous, the very talented, the very handsome, and you know, all in all, the very Irish Imperium.
And the man beside me, the very beardless, the very beautiful, the very Irish as well, Gibson. There you go. Yeah, that's. I tried to be more creative. I low-key failed. My apologies, man.
It's okay. We'll work on it. We'll improve. We'll get through it together as a team. Couple of teams won't be getting through this map though. Boring Protocol, Honored Souls, Influence Rage, and Team QUESO just having a water break. And you know, Imperium, if you had a half an hour break and you were as dominant as Influence Rage, would you be getting, you know, a little bit of a snack? Would you be chilling? What would you fill your next 30 minutes with?
Jesus, Maverick, chill. It's okay. It's okay, bro. It's fine. It's fine. I know you're worried about your clock, but it's fine. We've got this, man. We've got this.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish that the viewers could hear the conversations that we have with the producers, because there's a lot of inside jokes that we've been throwing out all night. Although Imperium, the flight paths that's been thrown our way by PUBG tonight. I said vanilla last time. I'm going to use something different. They're like a ham sandwich. These flight paths.
But I'm kind of curious to I don't quite understand the comparison to a ham sandwich. Is that because a ham sandwich is pretty plain?
Yeah, exactly. It's plain. It's simple. It's nothing too crazy. You know, there's nothing mad in there like a bit of Marmite, because you know some people love it, some people hate it. Or, you know, in Ireland, as people say, there's no taco sauce in it, really.
That's true. That's true. I see, but I would personally say that a ham sandwich is just frankly boring and a waste of bread, a waste of good butter. Like, if you're just gonna put ham on a sandwich, that's like just putting pants on in the morning, right? And not putting a jumper and t-shirt on. You know, it's. Come on, at least put cheese on it. Like, cheese and ham is a plain sandwich, but there's still some effort involved.
It's going to be difficult for you, Imperium, when you get back to lands, that you're going to have to put on trousers again, because I know that you sit there in just a t-shirt and a shirt or a top for these cats.
Okay. What I do in my own house. So is it, sir, do not judge me, okay?
Hey, it's been a thing for a while. Look, we all think back to films like Anchorman, and you know, they were the renegades of the business on top, and you know, I'll use the safe word, casual on the bottom.
Okay, I'm glad you used that word, because I thought you were going to use a different word.
Here, Lee. Never mind. I'm segueing away. I'm moving on out of this conversation. Much the same way that it looks like. I was looking for a team that were rotating, and I can't really even say just like so much. So moving on. Let's talk about the zone.
There you go. That's a good segue. That's a good transition. The phase one is much like a ham and cheese sandwich. Pretty plain, pretty solid. Nothing too spicy. No taco sauce in it. And yeah, that's all there really is to say about it.
Oh, these sandwich references are going to make me very, very hungry.
Well, I'm going to make you a little bit more hungry. What is your perfect sandwich, Gibson? If you had, like, kind of within reason all of the creativity, like the best deli bar in the world per se, what would be your greatest sandwich? What would be your sandwich of choice?
Right, this is going to be very controversial.
Okay.
You start with cornbread, right?
That's fair. That's not controversial.
You start with your cornbread.
The bread isn't really the most important part, but go on.
It's a vital part. It holds everything together.
Okay, it is, but I didn't want to include it too much in the variability of a dream sandwich. I was more focused on the fillings in that regard, you know?
We'll go for Little bit of chicken tikka,
Okay.
coleslaw,
Yeah.
onion,
Crispy onion or
red,
raw onion?
red onion.
Red onion. Okay.
Red onion. And yeah, I think that'll do it for me. What about you, Imperium?
That's it.
Yeah, well, I'm a man
Jesus.
of simple tastes.
That's a bit of a letdown. That's not gonna lie. That's a bit anticlimactic, if I do say so myself.
Controversially says, and then he goes on to explain one of the most boring sandwiches you've ever heard.
Like, geez, I might have to use that kind of sandwich to describe a circle in the future. It's that plain.
It's not plain. It's a sandwich. It's a sandwich. Plain
See,
takes the players in.
I'm not even gonna. I'm just gonna let you wing that.
Oh.
So I think our producer said to check Discord, and he literally put a picture of a sandwich with what looks like cheese. I think it's cheese, tomato, some form of pork,
beef.
if I'm not mistaken.
Beef.
Is it beef? Some form of beef. It looks pretty nice. Definitely better than the sandwich that you described, Gibson. Chat, feel free to let us know what would be your favorite sandwich.
I just want to fill this by saying that me and Imperium are professionals. We're professional speaky boys. We talk for a living, and here we are talking about sandwiches.
I call myself a professional esports caster. Sandwiches could very much be an esport. I don't know how. I haven't connected the dots, but my point is, it still counts.
Will you one day grow up to be a professional sandwich artist?
That is a real thing, though. That is a real thing.
It is.
Like, that's a full-on real thing, and that's like a lucrative business. Like, people get paid seriously good money for that.
Yeah. You know, I think that the players are so interested in our conversation that they haven't given us any fighting action to talk over at all so far, Imperium, and we're already quite a bit through map number 1.
Oh, well, wait, there's a game going on?
Yeah,
okay, jeez, I didn't realize that. Genuinely, it has been a very passive game. I think that with the circle being somewhat similar to the first game of the day, maybe teams recognize that going for the center of the circle is too familiar of a playstyle that a number of other teams look to pull out, and therefore they don't want to make those kind of mistakes again, so they're being a little bit slower, more methodical. Once again, there's so many parts of the map that are lockable inside this first circle, second circle, third circle per se, that there's just no rush to get to the center, and it could be at the detriment to your end result, like we did see in the first game.
Yeah, the first game was a fun one, though. Like, we had the Kidney Island Circle, which got me excited. There's a couple of zones, and I can say it now because it's not a possibility anymore. The Zarky Circle, the Millie Circle, the Kidney Island. There's a couple of places that really get me excited. When I look at a zone like this, Imperium, there's still infinite amount of possibilities to where we could really end up with in that final zone.
It could still be a Kidney Island finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we saw a shift over to the west on phase 2, well, northwest on phase 2, and then it ping-ponged over to the northeast on phase 3. And that's why committing so early to the center is a risk within reason in itself. Ints are still in Pachinki. That's okay. I'd like to see them move out of it, at least in terms of 1 to 2 players to spread out in preparation for phase 2 earlier on. Vivo Kid moving in from the South George buildings. Alpha 7 doing something similar, and they're playing a similar playstyle as they did in phase 1 that got them a very good result, and sending 1 or 2 players to the Cube compound.
Cube compound is a really good one that I like. Holding the zone shifts, and kind of gets rid of any real possibility of the Millie Island circle. Yes, there's still an opportunity, but you feel like it might end up towards those Pachinki fields down to the southeast or southwest of Pachinki. A lot of traffic moving in from the northeastern side, though, and that could lead to some flashpoints in and around school apartments, down around Shelter, New Compound, J Compound.
Yes. Definitely, it would probably be the least habitable area of the map, despite having a couple of compounds that you mentioned. The exit strategy from those positions, especially when you have too many teams, can be quite tricky. Nice centralized phase 2 does still open the door. The one positive of this second shift, Gibson, is it has eliminated the majority of that north of the river. Could still shift up northwest on phase number 3 to include Kidney, so I don't want to automatically presume that's the case. But again, eliminate the majority of north of the river does make it safer for the teams.
It does. And finally, we see a shot in anger as Polo G will be the first member to drop on this one. Kindness looking to just get up on top of that hill now, have a peek over the edge, and for XSET to lose a player, I'm not going to say that early, because really it isn't that early in the game anymore, but to lose the player who was going to regroup with the rest of the team, because they had a little split going there, it's a bit detrimental.
It is. I don't mind the split that they had. I would argue they didn't have to react super quickly to that phase 2 shift in the way that they did, because they were already inside the second circle, right? Maybe they didn't expect Nova to be in the spread that they were. That does seem to be the case. You got to expect the unexpected, and where Nova are placed in a split between the compound that the shots came from and southeast of Pachinki are incredibly valuable even in this early part of the game.
Yeah, they are. Smurf compound down to the south. It's all good terrain, and oh god, I'm seeing XJ make the move down as he full sends it for the res, and that was a very bad decision from Jay. XSET are going to lose another member of their side. Nova are really being gifted these eliminations. Yeah,
Silly stuff from XSET. You suffer a casualty like that, just give it up, just let him go, right? You don't have to fight for the revive. The only way that would have been successful is if they had have gotten a trade knock on any of the Nova players. That's when that kind of push to go for the revive could have been viable. But without that, yeah, it's death's door, and now they're down to just a solo. Black Dragons coming in from that military island across the western bridge. Nobody's there, so they have a free entry point. BULUC CHABTAN engaging onto INTZ, and INTZ not moving away from Pachinki in phase 1 like I recommended has gone against them, and that's silly. That's really silly.
It's not the best decision in the world, and that noise has drawn the attention of VIVO Key. I think that's BULUC CHABTAN, if I'm not mistaken, moving into the action as well, as Pachinki becomes a hotbed of activity. And that zone, as it tends to do all night, it goes way up to the north.
It's an acceptable shift, because phase 2 wasn't so much of a ping pong, it was more centralization. Funnily enough, the phase 3 does still include Kidney Island, just putting that out there, but for the most part, Headshot Hills, the school apartments, the buildings outside of school apartments, basically in between school and Pachinki, all incredibly valuable. You can lock down the north of Roshawk. Yes, you don't get too much information to the south side of the circle, but it does give you a good exit rotation if phase 4 centers up off the back of phase 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too sure where the zone could shift, though. It's been a very, very difficult zone to read for players all night with the way it's moved. School apps, though, Rise moving inside. Gary tossing utility in through those big open windows. Lazarus spotting Affinity on the way past too, as we see a little self-inflicted nade knock.
Don't know what happened there. I think it might have been where he was cooking a nade and shots came through from another team and maybe he knocked himself with a nade. I don't know. Hopefully the revive comes through because that's not the way you want to go down. Lazarus looking to get involved in a little bit of a third party on the north eastern side of the circle outside of Rostock as Infinity make the push from the outside into the high ground of Rostock where Delta Stars are already located.
Yeah, and the winners of this fight will be in a really good position to read where the rest of these zones go. So this is of vital importance. Nito using the utility, tossing nades up towards Escanor. He knows that there's a player up in that direction. INCO have fallen elsewhere. Nito, though, another nade tossed in. Shots coming in from afar. And it just forces him back into a little bit of cover.
It's good to see Infinity get a little bit down and dirty in the early parts of the game, considering what we highlighted in their distribution of points between eliminations and placements. I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to be proactive. It's tricky on this northeast of Rostock, but I think they definitely have the bones to take control of Delta Stars because they're a passive team in their own right.
Yeah, it's all you have to do is look at the kill or the elimination totals of both of these sides, and you get a good idea of the way that they play. Kindness getting knocked by Ents as the Battle of Pachinki continues to carry on. Ents really being punished for not following your advice earlier in the game and getting active and moving on out of dodge. And really, the benefactors are Nova.
Yeah, incredibly valuable. Achilles is going to get knocked. A lovely nade coming out from Delta Stars Escanor. Still, the revive is going to come through because of the teammates of Infinity sticking together. 3-1 split is very positive. However, Zohan has to do a lot of work on the roof of that building.
Boy knocks himself with a nade as well. It's getting a little bit common, whatever is going on right now. Looks peeking around the edge of the wall, creating those little lines of sight to take advantage of. Fraggers goes for the reload, and Rose from way off in the distance gets that knock as the assist comes in. Drop shots as well as players are just fighting it out inside the smoking. Sometimes the smoking need to go the little jump scares to Imperium.
It can, and it could have gone horribly wrong for Infinity. That third party from Lazarus easily could have connected onto anybody because they didn't care who they were shooting at. They were just shooting at who they shot at, and it was unfortunately Delta Stars to be the bearers of those bullets, and it leads them down to just a solo. Lazarus are pushing across on this. They want to clear their backs in a big way as the circle has centered up inside phase 4.
Yeah, they don't want to move into the zone and then have to deal with them later. You deal with a problem earlier, you stop it from becoming a much bigger item. What the hell? We are witnessing some of the best dodging I have ever seen by Lion. But he couldn't dodge everything and he eventually falls.
Switching on over to ATON, taking a fight against BULUC CHABTAN outside of Potato Hill. ATON decided to play a little bit more passive as BULUC, and that's a product of the result. Good idea from ATON. They disengage her down to just a duo. As Fran and Chuko's most likely going to send it down to the buildings outside the fields of Pachinki on that eastern side. Black Dragons still up as a full squad.
Yeah, and just testing out the sides of those vehicles as well as they bump their way down the hill. Rose looking at Infinite's Rage. Rose, can you hit those shots? And just disengages because he spots out the fact that Fears has been taken out. Lux jumped out of the buggy a little bit too soon and fell. And oh, it's just all gone very, very wrong for Infinity Esports.
Headshot Hills, surprisingly unoccupied in this kind of circle. Yes, with how the shifts have come through, the compounds in between Skull and Pachinki were, within reason, a priority. However, I'm really surprised that Vivo Kid, who at one point were on that compound to the west of Headshot Hills, didn't kind of slowly creep their way in and use the natural divots of those Headshot Hills to control that western side. Don't know what went wrong, but they're down to a solo.
Not looking very good at all. Black Dragon's talents. Cooking a nade, tosses it towards Choco, does a lot of damage. Although is not quite enough to get the knock. I feel like this nade could be exactly what the doctor ordered, but once again, Choco absorbs all of that shrapnel and stays on his feet. And they've turned this little building into a complete hotbox with all that smoke, and it's really difficult for the Dragons to see what's going on.
It's difficult, but it's also overkill for ATON. Yes, they're technically slowing down Black Dragons, but all it was ever going to take was one nade, one knock in such a small building, and ATON now down to a solo. And the reason why it was too many smokes is because it eliminated the vision for themselves onto Black Dragons. If they were going to throw out a multiple amount of smokes, one or two of them should have been offensive smokes in the direction of Black Dragons.
Yeah, do something that keeps Black Dragons a little bit on their toes. Creo Alpha 7, they're keeping those members of Loops on their toes. They're inside plug and socket right now. Swagoon just looking around his surroundings, and this part of the map is affectionately known as Squid or Octopus as well. That zone shift, though, puts the cat amongst the pigeons, and Loops warehouse compound could be very attractive for some teams to push into.
Exactly. There's one thing having the circle, it's another controlling it, and Loops are going to be tested in a big way. Nova move out of Pachinki into the compound across the road from the warehouse buildings that Loops have locked down. One thing I do like for Nova is they've actually sent one player across the road on that ridge that's outside of those warehouse buildings. It's even though he's exposed, he's back as cover from Loops, and it's that little bit of proactive play. Risky as Nova are down to 3-0. But I appreciate that effort. I really appreciate that opportunity that Nova are trying to create for themselves.
Yeah, back yourselves no matter how many players are alive. Confidence is king. They're holding back a barrage of pushes now. Black Dragons crashing on, and Koi will be the first member to go down. QZ with the Bison moving as fast as he can to help it out. A lot of damage done onto the Black Dragons, and QZZ wipes them up. And the kill feed continues to light on up. Nova Esports back themselves, and so far it's working.
Unfortunate that Nova lost a player, and I appreciate QZZ being as proactive as he was in getting across the road. I thought if it was going to be any of the Nova players going down, it would have been QZZ, considering where he was. And that was all down to the proactivity the team laid out. However, they've got to be careful. Shots are coming in from Loops across the road, and every angle is putting Nova under pressure. Rise to the northeast of them, Loops directly to the north. Luckily, they're inside the circle for the time being.
Just about. We'll see where the next shift goes. Adrian from VIVO Keyed, the last standing member, making his way into the zone as well. Hearing all of these footsteps and gunshots, he can see Median. So, does he peek and shoot, or does he prolong his life? Looks like he's going to prolong.
It's so difficult. He's down to just 2 first aids. He can sneak his way a little bit around BULUC CHABTAN. However, I feel like his best chance is just to get an elimination before he gets taken out by the blue. He's going to go for the chance of trying to make it around BULUC CHABTAN outside of the blue, closer to the edge of the circle. And yeah, as soon as he went out in the open, his position was exposed.
Yeah, a little bit anticlimactic. I was rooting for Adrian to continue to fight on in this game. Nova now, the zone shift not very favorable to them. Another thing that's not favorable is the third party, or those shots from Reyes on to Alpha 7. BULUC CHABTAN making their way around these teams that stayed out of those two compounds. The zone looking great. Rise making a move towards Revo as well. The spray comes on out, and both members of Rise fall down to their knees. And that is not...
Why are you pushing one vehicle at a time, Rise? Push both together. That's just death's door. They're so lucky that BULUC CHABTAN aren't pushing in the way that they are. Rise didn't deserve to win that fight. So silly. Sorry, Gibson, but that just became so frustrating for me.
I know, but look, there was traffic. Rise, you can't... No, there wasn't that. I agree with you entirely. Fernan doing his bit to slow down Alpha 7 now too. Nice spray from BULUC CHABTAN. They've 7 eliminations. They've 4 players on their feet. They have zone control. All eyes rest now on what is going on. Z-Fan looks like the heel strat will be the dub of the day. Never mind that. Z-Fan, I believe, has just dropped out of this lobby. So we have 3 teams left. Alpha 7, BULUC, CHABTAN, and Loops.
Body advantage alone gives Loops the advantage. They've covered their backs and now they can focus on what is in front of them. It's quite flat, so it's important that they use that body advantage to spread out and get many, many angles of pressure onto the two remaining teams.
Yeah, I think it's a very different situation to the one that we had on Kidney Island last time, where Alpha 7 tried too hard to control the zone. I think this is the zone where you do need to dominate it from all angles. Fernan fighting against Loops. That might open the door for Alpha 7 to sneak in behind. Fernan is fighting multiple teams on multiple fronts. And BULUC, CHABTAN take the first knock.
I didn't realize that BULUC CHABTAN had as many players up as they did, and that was a possibly missed opportunity as they're being distracted by the two flanking players of Loops, whereas in my opinion they should have pushed more aggressively onto Alpha 7's position, because that's where they knew that Alpha 7 were. Sometimes the devil you know is often better than the devil you don't know.
I agree. It's a tough situation for them deciding which of these two teams to fight, because in reality you gotta fight both. Alpha 7 starting to throw down the smoke. And I'm just looking right now, and there's just clouds of smoke opening everywhere on this aerial view, as you can see the path that these teams are creating for themselves into the zone.
Alpha 7 have the furthest distance to move, but in that time, they can also make a little bit of an aggressive push as a duo. Easier said than done. Let's see what they can make of it.
Yeah, pushing up onto that drop as well. Alpha 7 hoping to get a little gift from up on high. Loops getting into those buggies. They're making their way into the zone now too. QUESO sprays on the Loops as two of them now get together in and around the center of that zone. You look at the mini feed, there's so many dots up there, and BULUC CHABTAN try to reduce the number. QUESO piling on the pressure now. Three teams fighting it out for the win. Median though has the ridge. He wants to cover it out, but that nade from Chief denies the potential of a res as Loops now full send it in towards the middle of the zone. Although this ridge could be key for BULUC CHABTAN.
I can't believe Alpha 7 are still alive. And Loops are joining up in one bundle. A shower of nades are going to see them wiped out if they're not too careful. And that's all it took.
Yeah, the nades do all the damage. And now Alpha 7 fight it out with BULUC CHABTAN for the win. It's a 3 versus 2 situation. Make that 3 versus 1. 3 versus none. BULUC CHABTAN take the win. The match is over. They get the chicken dinner. And we are over halfway through the action tonight.
Very nice finish to the game, and probably one of the nicest games we've seen in America's Elite League season so far, right? The circle shifts weren't too ping-pongy, they weren't too frustrating. Yes, it ended in a bit of an awkward spot, but there was, up till like phase 8, there was a number of compounds playable, and we saw a lot of teams shine in that way. Those final moments, Gibson, though, I get that it was so difficult for all three teams, but again, I've got to ask, how in the blue hell did Alpha 7 survive as a duo and get themselves second place? Was it a lack of focus from Loops? Was it a lack of focus from BULUC CHABTAN? I know BULUC CHABTAN ended up winning, but that was probably down to Loops making the mistake of being so clustered out in the open like that all it took was a barrage and
Little drink of water for
sorry,
I'm
dying.
I'll take over. I'll say it was a little column A, a little column B, and I'm throwing in a column C. The bit of terrain they had, they were almost in between two different ridges, which made it very hard for Loops to engage with Alpha 7. And the route that they decided to take was to fight with BULUC CHABTAN head on. And they almost ignored the threat from Alpha 7, and by the time they realized the threat was there, the nades were already landing on top of them.
There could have been that little bit of a foundational mistake from Loops where that 2-2 split probably should have been a 3-1 split. And I'm not saying that in a hindsight because it didn't work out, because I don't think they lost it due to that 2-2 split. but possibly in a different world, that 3-1 could have allowed them to use the 3 people together in a bit more of an aggressive manner, whereas the 2-2 split forced them to play a little bit more passive, and that ended up biting them in the butt. The match standings are here, and a deserved amount of eliminations, a deserved amount of points for BULUC CHABTAN with that chicken dinner.
Yeah, and Alpha 7 for the second time tonight, getting up into 20 plus points with a second place finish again. We call, you said at the start of tonight, or, after map 2, that if there was one team that could fight their way from that 10th place all the way into the top 3, you said it was Alpha 7. They have come alive. Loops picked up 14 points again, and Nova finally putting together a good game after what's been a very, very difficult couple of maps for them.
Yeah, very, very difficult couple of maps. It was unfortunate that circle shifted so heavily away that it made it so much easier for Loops to gatekeep them. I think Nova could clean up a little bit around losing players. Apologies, something stuck in my throat early on in the game, and that does affect their late game, but otherwise, way better performance from them.
Great performance by them, but overshadowed by the performance of BULUC CHABTAN. 10 eliminations, 1900 damage, and a much more reasonable utility usage. That's more like what we're used to seeing in PUBG Mobile.
The amount of smokes, especially, it certainly makes sense considering the situation they were in. And if you noticed, towards that late game, one thing that also benefited BULUC CHABTAN is they didn't throw too many smokes out there, right? Because again, like the reason why I highlighted with ATON when they were actually going up against, I think it was BULUC CHABTAN, as far as I know. When you throw too many smokes in front of you, you more impair your own vision rather than the vision of your opponents. So when you throw smokes out in the right direction, in the right way, where there's not too many and they're in the right angles, you have that perfect balance of protecting yourself, but also giving you room to maneuver, to fire shots, to suppress the team and block their vision. It's a really hard thing to balance, genuinely a really hard thing to balance. There's some moments and some situations where teams glaringly do it wrong, but other than that, BULUC CHABTAN that game played it very, very well.
Brilliant performance by them. Brilliant performance by Reyes. And looking at the stats, he didn't share. He doesn't like to share, does he? 7 eliminations, not a single assist. Every player he turned his gun to, he took down.
Yeah. We've seen Reyes in the kind of MVP situation a number of times. I don't know what it is with BULUC CHABTAN, whether they're doing different things in this tournament than they would in a normal competitive setting. They played the PMGC last year, as far as I remember, if my memory serves me right, and they performed within reason pretty well. So maybe they're going, okay, well, we have good base foundation, however, we need to really kind of step up our knowledge and our experience in trying different other aspects of our playstyle, and that could be the reason why, at least in this season 5, they're not really up there with the top teams in a big way.
Yeah, it's something they can work on and definitely improve upon. Speaking about teams that have improved upon their situation, Nova closed that gap to 102 points now, although remember, they have played, they still have a game, or Influence Rage have a game in hand on them, because Nova will be sitting out of map number 5. Loops moving on up into 3rd place too, showing that they've been having a much better day, and Alpha 7 closed the gap into 2nd place to 47 points. That top half of the table getting so congested right now.
Definitely, Born Protocol need to watch their back in a big way. There's still a good 15 points Alpha 7 and Born Protocol away from 6th place onwards, but like you highlighted, a good set of games and you're up there with 2nd and 3rd.
You're right on up there. It's time though to whip out these scissors and cut to a break. Today is the penultimate day of the America's Elite League, and this is the penultimate match. But I'll tell you what, it's not the penultimate time you will see that man beside me, Imperium, because he has a packed schedule, and my god, does he have a brain for PUBG. Imperium, how have you been enjoying tonight so far?
It's been as enjoyable as driving a 6 Series BMW. That's how much fun it's been. Got you with that one, didn't I?
Honest to God, I've been really lucky that everyone that I've casted with has a very similar sense of humor to me, and it makes for a good time. It really does. Although, good times, they come to an end. For the little run that Lazarus have been having, it's going to come to an end now as they sit out of this lobby, and Rise are probably happy too, because if any team has fallen off the wagon, Imperium, over the last 2 play days, it's Rise.
Within reason, they have. They had a couple of solid games that has low-key helped keep them within the running. But compared to how they performed last season and how strong the performances were later into Season 4, yeah, definitely that drop-off has been exposed this season. I would argue that the competition, I don't want to say is higher, but closer in the kind of middle of the pack. So that hasn't helped them. Either way, the break will do them good as they have one more game after this. We are into the desert terrain of Miramar for game number 4 of the day. The plane path looking to start around kind of outside Los Leones on the 5 o'clock mark, ending on the 11 o'clock mark.
Yeah, it's kind of eastern or western skewed, this flight path, if we're being honest. We're getting ready to do that Waltz of the Wasteland, though, for the last time tonight on Miramar. And I think one thing that I'm going to look to see is what decision Team QUESO make. Last time we came here, and you made a really big point of it to talk about, they dropped in Monte Nuevo, and they disengaged from that fight very early and jumped on in to El Pozo, where I believe it was a fight between, was it Delta Stars and the members of...
It wasn't
Delta.
It was Lazarus and Alpha 7.
Yeah, Lazarus and Alpha 7. Did QUESO follow a similar pattern this time around, or do you think they fight XSET and Monte Nuevo this time?
Probably not going to be the case because of the fact that in this game you have Lazarus and Alpha not playing. They could go straight to El Pozo, which in theory I think would be certainly the safer option. Because of the plane path, maybe they feel confident to go for the drop onto Monte Nuevo and fight against XSET. Looking that way.
I really want to see that fight, because it's been a fun one over the course of the season so far. J7, like the... like the old cowboy, I keep saying that phrase when I talk about it, but it really does give me that vibe when players whip out the Winchester. And, what's better than one Winchester? 2 Winchesters.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. Unfortunately, what normally is better than a 3-person team is a 4-person team. It's not going to be the case in this game for XSET. They're only joined as a 3-person team. I wonder how much Team QUESO are aware of that. Maybe in the kind of room part of it, they might have scrolled down and observed XSET only having 3 players in those slots. If that's the case, then cool, they should be looking to push on that. However, I would argue with how initially passive they're being, they aren't aware that XSET are only a 3-person team.
And if not through the room, hopefully you'd like to think that one of the players was counting those parachutes on the way on into Polo G, still rocking the 2 Winchesters. You'd like to think, could you imagine being able to dual wield those Winchesters? That would be a fun addition to PUBG Mobile.
It would be indeed. Very passive start to that fight, which is normally a little bit more fast-paced. This one, however, definitely is fast-paced. INCO, BULUC, CHABTAN, maybe feeling a little bit too confident off the back of the chicken dinner in the previous game. All guns blazing into the arms of INCO. They pick up 2 kills, 2 eliminations, should I say, outside of Picado, and they're looking for the final 2 eliminations.
Looking to add them to the tally. Nen was showing off his ability with the 6x and the barrel, and it kicks really hard. J7 falling back into the bedroom and being put to sleep as Team QUESO wrap on up, and they say the cheese can give you nightmares, Imperium. Well, it's really been a nightmare for XSET and the remaining members of this one so far.
Nice push as a full squad. They are not taking anything for granted. Jay gets a 2-piece, nearly the 3rd. I know it was always going to be tough form, but great effort as he switched right on back over to the fight between INCO and BULUC. CHABTAN Alien Kid pushed in on his own. He was able to get a knock, but once again, the body advantage takes over, and it's going to be the squad wipe for INCO.
I don't think there's any game out there like PUBG Mobile where losing a player or having a numerical disadvantage has as much of an impact in these fights. And I think it goes to show how vitally important to every single member is in the team. Because every team, Imperium, there's a little structure on how they play. Players take up specific roles, and if you're starting a game missing one of those roles, it changes the whole scope of everything for you.
Of course, I'm okay with a team losing a player early on if they're able to adapt as a team, and if it's at the greater good of either a squad wipe or some early game control, etc. Right? It's often where teams are so afraid of losing a player that they'll be too passive, whereas the more aggressive teams will find that balance of being okay with losing a player early on while still being aggressive and the adaptability. However, yes, you're dead right. Losing a player shifts up the mentality of a team. It forces them to shape how they play into circles so much more as Born Protocol fighting Hacienda against INTZ come out on top.
Yeah, battling it out at the boss's house as Boring Protocol pick up another few eliminations from them. They've lost 2 members. They've got 4 points on the board already. It's an okay trade-off. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's points, though. And Boring Protocol, after the day they had yesterday, they're having a much better day on the point front.
I didn't know Bruce Springsteen owned Hacienda del Patron.
He does. We speak about the boss.
It's me.
And he really was born to run that map, too.
I wish I knew more Bruce Springsteen songs. I'm gonna let you out on a little secret. I don't want to say I don't like Bruce Springsteen's music. I respect what he's done, but I've never been a specific fan of his music. I've heard he's very good live, just like live and in person. We're seeing this fight break out between MEXEZIS and this side of Nova. Nova being successful in this encounter.
Yeah, and Kindness dropping in behind the wall again. Watcho with a beautiful spray through all of the bricks. Gets Koi down on his knees. And let's see if Kindness can kill them with bullets as MEXEZIS Esports circling in around like a pack of sharks. The blood is in the water. The blood is on their hands. And Nova Esports, well, it's just 2 members left and they are getting out of dodge.
They are indeed. I think one of the Nova players is on the western edge of Los Leones, if I'm not mistaken. So even within that Impala fight, they only initially had 3 players left. Very weird from Nova. Also, it was Kindness that was the player up inside that building. Being pro down is an absolute death wish. It's like being a rogue on the floor of a car, but you just don't have the reaction time to move, and you're allowing the team to not slip up in that way. And it was a free elimination point for MEXEZIS Dreams in that moment. Great shots by Wancho as well with the UMP, like you said, through the cracks of the bricks. Cracks of the bricks. There you go. I found the right English. Good job, Imperium.
Look, sometimes the thesaurus or the dictionary, it doesn't work. We get so excited by what we've seen that we need words to catch up with us. And I don't know if anyone watching has ever casted before Imperium, but is there anything worse than when you're mid-flow and a word just deletes itself from your dictionary?
It's the most painful. It's the most painful thing in the world, because is quicker than you can expect. It becomes also very awkward, and then it's like digging a hole, and it can be nearly impossible to get out of. It goes with the flow of casting, and we're all human at the end of the day. These kind of things are going to happen. It's why, you know, as much as we're critical on teams, we understand that they're humans and how they play, and they are going to make mistakes. They are going to slip up in how they proceed through these games, and yeah, we'll always do our best to forgive them and allow them to learn, grow, and get better as time goes on within the competitive scene.
Oh, you are a benevolent one, aren't you, Imperium? You forgive them, absolve them of their sins. I will say, though, I agree with you. The reason why I cast is because I am a fan. I adore esports players. I know that they make mistakes, and at the end of the day, they do something good, it excites me. They do something bad, and it upsets me. And much like the players at home, most casters, I know Imperium, you're particularly one, we adore every single one of these players. And the only reason you ever get upset is because you know that you expect more of them sometimes, because you know they're capable
of better as well. They're capable of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look, it is what it is. It does what it does. Life goes on. We have a smile on our faces whenever we can. Jeez, this has gotten very philosophical very quickly. What, like, can we go back to talking about sandwiches?
Well, look, I'm all sandwiched out, Imperium, if I'm being honest. So, since we've casted at America's Elite League, we've spoken about our favorite pizza toppings, we've spoken about sandwiches. Let's hit the real. We've spoken about ice creams as well. Let's not forget we've spoken about our favorite ice creams. So let's touch on the real important topic. And for those of you at home, this is a divisive subject here in Ireland in particular. Northern Tato or Southern Tato?
There's only one Tato. That is Irish Tato. Like, I don't claim to be like a nationalist in terms of, you know, it's either Ireland or nothing. But when it comes to Tato, there's only one Tato, right? It's that's it. You know, like, people won't really understand that, but it's like asking people from Atlanta if they prefer Pepsi or Coke, right?
Yep. I don't think people realize how big it, like, for anyone watching this from outside of Ireland, there's actually a theme park named after Tato crisps.
Yeah, exactly. That's how much of a national treasure. By the way, when we say crisps, we mean chips, potato chips. That's, you know, just, again, you know, Americans deciding to create their own words. But anyway, it's a different story.
You're a national treasure, Imperium.
Oh my God! Get out! Get out of here! But I'll take it. Thank you. Very, very sweet. We need to get back to the game. We haven't really seen too much action off the back of the hot drops that came through. Some very good positions being held out by these teams. ATON, great Picado Hill spot. I like that MEXEZIS moved away from Hacienda onto the north, the Picado Hill area, and INCO a little bit late on their rotation will face the brunt of Honored Souls, and they'll lose a player because of it.
Yeah, nice little spray by Pedrinho finishes that one off. I'm actually really impressed by the beating of the chest that went on in that junkyard compound too. You can't talk enough about how much of an impact beating your chest, barking, and taking shots at rotating players can have at preventing them from crashing your compound too, Imperium. You don't get the elimination at the first phase, but it secures your position.
You lay the foundations, right? If you're building a house, you lay the foundations before you construct the walls, the roof, and everything in between. And then that's a key to success across all of these games. You're not always going to get the foundations right, but as you get more experience, you're going to fine tune yourself to know when to lay those foundations in which way, and you're going to find more success because of it. It's simple as that. VIVO keyed in a great spot of this phase 3 on that northern side to the west of San Martin. It's a massive hillside ridge. You're going to be able to cover their backs on teams possibly rotating on that northern roadside away from San Martin / Hacienda. And yeah, okay, they do have that massive opposing mountain that's still inside the circle, but I would argue this late into the game, it's a big risk to head directly up there.
That's what's happening though. Chief sets a little bit of motion himself as a spray comes on the Federal. The rest of Influence Rage pushing in very quickly to get that instant revenge, that instant recovery onto their downed friend, although Chief is using the terrain to perfection, and Toiko took a little bit of a tactical break there to bed up, and it's meant that Cardozan is left to fight all by himself on top of that ridge. Kiowski falls back, Law finishes that one out, and Loops need to get aggressive now because Influence Rage have turned this fight on its head, and Toiko does exactly that.
It's an incredibly difficult area of the map to engage because as much as there's hard cover, as soon as you peek over, you are massively exposed. So it's all or nothing, do or die for both of these teams, and that's why both are struggling to keep full teams alive. Law's the last player up, put down this sliver of health. It's not even worth going for the revive. Get a first aid off and go for the fight.
Yeah, Toiko got a first aid off himself. Chief is low HP. Let's see if Law can lay down the law. Who is the sheriff? Will we see Loops having the chief of police in action here? Or will Law be the governor? Chief jumps up on top of that ridge, dancing around it, making it very difficult to take any damage at all from Law. Law's one shot away from going down and off in the distance. Uneven has evened up this fight just a little bit.
Oh, I feel so bad for Chief and Loops as a whole. It's not outside the realms of possibility as Toiko clutches up to finish Influence Rage off. Great resilience by Toiko especially. It's so easy to get rattled off the back of a third party, but he kept his wits about him and finished it off and will get the revive onto his two teammates.
Yeah, they did lose Cardozan, which is a heavy loss. Although Boring Protocol made that one interesting. I was very interested to see if Law would have been able to use that to push on up the zone shift, and while all that action was going on, Imperium, and we have a lovely little main road from Monte Nuevo to San Martin, splitting our zone almost in half.
The one positive aspect of this road, however it's not yet in the game, is that it is playable to be on the road because of the massive ridge either side. The reason why it's not playable now is because it's basically split in the middle. So if you go there now, you're going to get peppered by both VIVO Keyed and possibly INCO, maybe ATON as the circle moves in. So timing is of the essence in waiting for the next circles to pop up. Good job, by the way, by Team QUESO to pick up an elimination point, I believe, onto Honored Souls, who are now down to a trio.
Yeah, you might get peppered by shots, and you might also get assaulted, Imperium.
Nice. I like it. You could say that was a... No, actually, no, I can't. No, I can't find a good counterpoint to that. You win that one.
You need to catch up with the action here, as Nick.
No, that doesn't count. No, you can't connect ketchup with salt and pepper. You got to use another herb. You got to use another, seasoning, right? Ketchup doesn't count, man. Oh, you got too greedy. You got too greedy, Gibson.
They're all condiments. Come on.
It's salted. I don't consider salt and pepper a condiment. The condiment is ketchup, mustard, brown sauce, ranch, Caesar, dressing. Right, they're condiments. Salt and pepper is a seasoning.
You've made me feel really bad now, Imperium.
I'm sorry, man, but you did such a good job. You kind of left me speechless. Then you just got too big for your boots in that moment. It's fine. It's fine.
You know what they say
so
about
good in my books.
You know what they say about big boots, Imperium?
Big socks.
Yes.
There you go.
We are
Oh,
too
my Lord.
Irish.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Vivo Key looking to sock it to the teams around him in the form of Infinity and Born Protocol. I believe they were down to just 2 players, and even his wiped out spec is on his own. However, just a tiny tree in front of him. That's little cover. ATON finishes him off.
Yeah, he's kicked to the curb on that one. Loops. Drive through the smoke. Do it. No, he jumps out and instead whips out his gun. Maybe that was the better option, as Infinity are now under heavy pressure from Demonor. The 3 members of Loops drive into the smoke now again as Toyko assaults into the action. And all of a sudden, it's all going wrong for Infinity. A good shot back the other way, though. Cardozen cleans the action up, though. Loops move into first place on the temporary standings on 8 eliminations, and they may not get the reses, because in the third party, here comes Vivo Keed.
Vivo Keed had moved Infinity down to the bottom of the hill and suppressed him in that direction. Loops' engagement onto Infinity honestly wasn't that clean, and because they suffered double knocks, again, Vivo Keed found the opportunity to push away. They had to push in this direction to get to the edge of the circle, mind you. Either way, great opportunity. Good game by Loops. Lovely aggression. It's the end of the road for them.
Is that another road pun because we're on the tarmac? Oh,
No,
yeah.
no, actually, no. That was just a genuine comment, really. A closing out of the sentence.
You'll take it. It's well worthwhile.
Well, you know what? I won't, because I try to make sure that, like, you know, if I'm going to lay claim to a pun, it has to be genuine. It's like when you fart. You don't say you farted when you don't fart, right? You know, be proud of a fart as much as you're proud of a pun.
Wasn't expecting you to go
Yeah,
there.
I know. I caught you off guard. I know, it's brilliant.
And I like the fact that you full committed as well. You made the point.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what? I'm not backing down. I'm being proud of what I've just done. Honored souls jump into that Lamborghini. I think it's a Gallardo. Maybe you could confirm that for me lately.
I have no idea. It's just a vehicle to me.
It's a car. It's got 4 wheels and an engine.
I bet you wish it was a BMW 6 Series, though.
I do. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. And I bet you that GC God maybe wished he didn't jump out of that Lamborghini. He falls down to his knees. That's an easy pickup for Vivo Key. Gifted another point. They've played really well. They've taken the eliminations that have been given and they've forced the agenda where possible. MEXEZIS end up being eliminated out of this lobby too as Vivo Key start to surround Team QUESO as well. And the utility dump has begun.
Remember what I said about that roadside being playable? It's still not playable with how high of a percentage it is inside the circle, right? Team QUESO can in no way move towards Vivo Key because they will get absolutely massacred by ATON behind them. Timing, it wasn't of the essence for Team QUESO. I appreciate the effort, just poor execution.
Golden lasering somebody off in the distance. Team QUESO wiped out in 5th place. And INCO make their move inside the zone as well. And are they going to move onto the road? Are they going to do what you said was the wrong idea? And it looks like they are.
This is, in theory, a better idea, but I would argue they should have waited about 10 to 15 seconds to get the relevant amount of information to see if there was a team kind of still on the side of the road that they came from. Better from INCO, in the right direction, but the threat is still there. The last player of Honored Souls has done a hell of a lot of work.
He really has, and Smith is now calling in an airstrike as the zone gets into that shack just about enough time as we just segue over to this other gunfight. Adrian, nice little spray and assist coming in from Diego, blowing up the Bronco as well. The kick of the Bronco, though, not taking any prisoners. Vivo Key really looking to push the agenda. The zone finally decides which side of the zone or the road it wants to take.
And this is why, okay, look, this game is continuing on. Vivo Key is controlling a masterfully. They're up to 10 eliminations, and they're looking for 12, 13 to close out the chicken dinner.
Oh, look at this, though. I've said my little phrase as Honored Souls, Pylon, and Vivo Keyed wiped out that kill, and INCO's move into this ridge. Well, I was about to say it paid off, but the nade came in, and that game finished very unexpectedly there.
Because Vivo Key controlled it so perfectly. They took absolutely nothing for granted. They had the side of the hill covered. They had a player pushing up. There was risks involved around it when you saw he got knocked, but because they had done so much work in laying the foundations of control, of aggression, of suppression, they had the cover to push in the right ways. INCO's move across the road, you know what? They kind of proved me wrong with the timing. Was much better than I initially thought, because ATON were not as proactive from their movement. Vivo Key did all the dirty work for INCO, because Vivo Key couldn't push down onto INCO's position as they covered the hillside a little bit too heavily at that point in the game. So good job, INCO.
Yeah, INCO having a very strong and effective game, and they've really elevated themselves into that conversation of finishing inside the top 3. Although a little bit of a comeback from Vivo Key, they turned the day around for them, picking up quite a few points. And just look at how they've been rewarded. Almost 30 points, 28 for Vivo Key, and it almost makes up for how the day's been.
About time. Like, we need to see more of this Vivo Key performance, honestly, because when they do it better than nearly any team, not only in America's League, but arguably over, you know, across many regions. Like, one of the biggest things that impressed me about Vivo Key when I first saw them in America's League was how good they were at moving, at rotating, at controlling the games, especially coming into the late game. And yes, Miramar, I feel, is their strongest map compared to the 3. And that's fair enough, because it gives them the flexibility to play in the right way and control these circles. But I'm starved with these big Vivo Key performances. I really want to see more before Season 5 ends.
I do. There was a stage this season where we really thought that they were in with a chance of rallying for the win too, and it's not even been necessarily their own fault. It's just how good Influence Rage have been that's caused that gap to grow. That's the unfortunate thing. We actually spoke about it yesterday, and we didn't actually get the numbers, but I wanted to see what that second and third place points tally would have put teams last season. Vivo Key, though, tail of the tape, 13 eliminations for them, and your man of the match with another 7+ elimination performances, McGrell. And I think every MVP tonight has had 7 or more eliminations.
Pretty much. He only did 7 healing, which shows he was clinical, straight to the point, and he had a lot of support from his team as well, right? The damage to elimination ratio, it not only again shows that McGrellin took every opportunity to strike hard, but because of that backup support, every single player from Vivo Key was putting in the work in that previous game. Looking into the overall standings, I still believe it's too little too late unless Vivo Key can really make use of their last 5 games. But moving into second place is certainly more of the normality that we've seen across previous seasons.
Yeah, I love the way the season's played out too, though. I know that going into the last day, we would have loved it to be more competitive. But just because it's not competitive for first place, it's actually made it hyper competitive for the top 3. And we spoke about it before. Quite a large portion of the prize pool is split between those 3 teams at the top. Loops sitting in 3rd place right now. INCO 1 point behind them. Honored Souls level with Nova, 2 points behind that. And it's just all so congested.
Alpha 7, weren't playing in that game. Boring Protocol were, so that lead has been a little bit increased in that regard. Both teams are playing the next game, so coming into the final play day, it is Alpha 7's opportunity to continue that growth up the standings. Without a shadow of a doubt, it was just a Vivo Key game, right? McGrellan, Diego as well in his own right, Cielo with 3 eliminations. It was methodical from Vivo Key, and they're the only team that realistically, you know, it was such a good game from Vivo Key that it's just overshadowed anything else that really happened in that game.
I feel like it's the first game that they didn't get tunnel vision tonight. You know, they weren't hyper focused on one thing. They were more aware of absolutely everything that was going on and their surroundings. And Imperium, you see that over there? Can you see it?
Where?
Oh, it's a break.
Oh, hi, break.
I need a second to gather myself because our producer just shouted 10 seconds so loudly that I jumped out of my seat. But we're back on it. It's Imperium. It is Gibson. And bit of a sad map coming up now, Imperium. This is the last time this season that people are going to get to see you and I working together.
They'll either be sad or they'll be happy. Yeah, indeed. Of course, the final play day is going to have a special guest caster in that regard. So I'm looking forward to that. But indeed, certainly a little bit bittersweet that you're not going to be with us for the final days. You're going to be jetting off to America tomorrow night, as it happens. So I hope you enjoyed that. Much like we are going to enjoy the final game of today, I think it really will help shape the final day, right? Alpha 7 are playing. Unfortunately, Nova aren't, but Alpha 7 are, like I said, Boring Protocol as well. The likes of VIVO Kid, who jumped up to second place, and the side of Infinity, who've been, out of all the teams who've been volatile, such as Nova, VIVO Kid, Loops, other teams, I have to give a lot of respect to Infinity because they have kind of been the most stable in that regard. I just hope they can keep that stability up amongst all the madness that ensues.
And it will be mad, it will be crazy, it'll be hectic, and it's going to be full of action as we get ready to jump into Erangel for the last time tonight. And there's a couple we'll get to see it a few more times this season, so I can't quite say that just yet. But Imperium, for the last time tonight, take us through the flight path, the opportunities that's going to bring.
It is starting at 6 o'clock. It's ending at 12 o'clock. The wind is blowing through the air. As my producer said a naughty word in my ear. Never the opportunity for these teams to drop wherever they want to. And my over-dramatization of this playing path has been ruined by Matic. Thank you, Matic. I love you, man.
Yeah. Hey, do you know what I've just noticed?
Yes, sir.
Our teams have made a little pizza slice with the drops right now. Almost.
Huh?
Yeah, there was a nice little pyramid created, a triangle created by the teams as they jumped out of the plane for just a... Oh, please. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. But please, I've seen that zone. And this is my last time on America's Elite League this season. Please treat me with PUBG, please.
I have a feeling that you want to eat a slice of pizza.
How'd you know?
I love the way you're just casually like, yeah, well, please, please, sir, may I have a slice of pizza, sir?
I didn't actually want one until you mentioned it. And you know when sometimes you don't know what you want. You're the one that
mentioned it first.
Yeah, but I wasn't thinking about eating one, and then you brought it up, and now that I've thought about it, it's like, a pizza would be good. For those of you watching right now, you're all in the States. We're in Ireland. It's coming on 3 a.m. at night, and this is the time when the munchies hit.
Only if there's enough smoke laid down. Infinity hot dropping in Yasnaya with Influence Rage. So the two INFs, or the two imps of this lobby, going to be kind of somewhat battling up against each other. Yes, okay, Yasnaya is a big enough city where it can easily handle two teams, and it does look like at least Infinity are kind of respecting that by pushing a little bit closer towards the eastern side of the city. The trickier aspect for them is how they disengage and move into the edge of the circle. I would argue that the safer bet for them is to actually wait until phase 2 pops up, right? Because not only are they more likely to stay away from Influence Rage at that point in the circle, at that point in the game, but also where they are on the eastern edge, it's by the side of the river. So even if the circle on phase 2 shifts heavily up north, they have an easier access. If it shifts heavily down south, technically they'll have an easier access into the circle. So yeah, Infinity, no rush for them to move out of the city.
Yeah, and you can go up to the north of that tadpole head, or you can stay down the south.
Yes.
You spoke about that lake. I think it was you and I that had that conversation the first time we worked together about whether it was a tadpole or a snake, and we settled on a tadpole.
We did. It was probably more that I insisted that it was called a tadpole, and you just gave into it. Much like you call it the shark fin area, and I've just it's shark fin. You know, I've actually, like I said, I've learned a lot more of the names of compounds off you this season. So thank you for that. But tadpole will always be tadpole in my eyes. Snakes are evil. Tadpoles are friendly.
And you never know, they could just spawn you a victory if you play correctly from that point. VIVO keyed on the move, a little bit of a run up the side of a hill. They're doing their scouting very well. I'm looking around the map, though. And are you noticing what I'm noticing down around that eastern bridge?
Oh, yeah. What? Okay. 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 Did Alpha 7 go to Nova because they weren't too confident about getting to North George? I would argue it's just as with the plane path, it was just as kind of like tricky to get to Nova as it was to get to North George. So I don't know why they've dropped there. Clearly, possibly, actually, the one theory I would have with this drop, if I take a little bit of a second to look at the overall standings after the previous game, is that INCO are in 4th on 256 and Alpha 7 are in 10th on 213. Technically, it could be a targeted drop to squad wipe a team that's directly in front of them in the leaderboard. I could be overthinking it. I could be. But that's the only proper logic that I have in my head.
We're deep in the rabbit hole now, guys, and I absolutely I was gonna say love it. I adore it. This is a better word. We gotta keep the thesaurus going every once in a while. Alpha 7 sending across the bridge, and I like the way that they're doing it. Yes, they don't know that INCO are gone, but they've still kept a player on the walkway, on the ramps. And it's just another way to scout and keep all of your angles covered, because how many times have you seen those stairs being used to set a trap when initially they were created so teams would have more ways to get across the bridge?
Definitely, they have been used as a trap in a big way. At the end of the day, crossing that bridge safely is always going to be about scouting, right? The pathways simply give you 2 extra ways to scout in a little bit of a patient manner. So if you use that to your advantage, yes, it will be an easier way of rotating across the bridge, whether it's towards mainland or towards Military Island. The phase 1 blue zone is starting to more heavily close in. We do have a cluster of teams on the eastern side, partly due to an even playing path and that circle on the west. So like I said, Infinity starting to move in now a little bit earlier than within reason I expected or would like, but if it works out for them, happy days. And it doesn't seem like they're moving in too fast at the moment. Influence Rage going for a 2-2 split is risky, and I don't get why Delta Stars have gone for Severny so heavily down towards the edge of the river. Maybe they're looking to catch teams out, and if it works out, then hey, good job.
Yeah, I agree. And the 2-2 split for Influence Rage, they're having fun at this point. They're flexing their muscles. They know...
True.
You would have to have the worst luck in the world to not go ahead and win the Elite League this season. So why not try new things? Why not have some fun and give us... It's all content. I'm all for it.
It is. Domino effect comes through as Influence Rage get a couple of shots on the Delta Stars, and Infinity pick up on that, and they third party. Really good job by Infinity. And again, you know, I still think kind of rotating a little bit later would have been more advisable, simply because of that domino effect. It's worked out for them, and they're not getting too involved for the time being. They make sure they have the knocks, to make sure they have the security, and then they're going to push in. There is a team coming in from behind, though. Loops are simply in the position that give or take, Infinity and Influence Rage were a couple of minutes ago, so they got to be careful.
They do. Influence Rage, losing players, they're not being careful whatsoever as Fraggers pops his head up and takes Federal's name, writes it down onto his little notebook. All of those great players he has gotten rid of. Demonor and the rest of the loops looking now to remove Fraggers from this little position he has found himself in. And Infinity getting involved too. This is just all action and it's pretty hectic and enjoyable on the side of the map.
It is. I wasn't expecting it to be like so clustered on the edge. Sometimes, you know, whether you call it domino effect or ripple effect, it's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Lazarus also possibly going to get involved as they swing in from the southeastern side of the circle. I don't really know what to make of it. Call it the last game craziness of the day. Call it Gibson's last game, just saying to the teams, hey, we'll do it for Gibson. That could be very possible. But either way, whatever the reason, yeah, I'm here for it.
I am. Do it for yourselves, though, guys. Do it for you. Just do it. And I'm not referencing Nike here. I'm referencing the one and only Shia LaBeouf.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that. I mean, that, not gonna lie, that was a little bit of a boomer reference. I'll let you away with it, but just letting you know, the whole kind of boomer cards that you have, like the boomer pass cards. That's one being taken away from you, Gibson. Just be careful, mate.
Oh no. And it might come right back like a boomerang. And unfortunately for Honored Souls, BULUC CHABTAN ain't going to come back into this one. And I'd say they kind of wish they would take on this fight, but BULUC CHABTAN, they've still got a big opportunity to also get involved with the big boys in this one. We've lost one team, Delta Stars, Nino spraying, hoping to land a shot onto that, and it's all happening. We've seen a couple of gunfights in and around Kidney Island already tonight.
We have. Phase 2, didn't really talk about it. It shifted up north, so that kind of Kidney Island, north of Roshock rotation position is going to be within reason quite viable inside this Phase 2. Somewhat protects you for at least Phase 3 as well, and Honored Souls certainly want to protect that by pushing in across the way towards BULUC CHABTAN into Watertown to see DC God is going to get a knock. Does get knocked in return, but the body advantage is in the favor of Honored Souls.
It is, and we spoke about this already. The fact that having more numbers and having more skin in the game just gives you way more of a chance to win every engagement you get into. Lazarus chasing away loops, making this their section of the map. The zone shift did happen, and I'm not going to get that Zarky finish that I quite wanted. Although I like it when you get to this sort of the game and players have a decision to make. North of the river, south of the river. All I want to see is a team commit. Don't sit on the fence.
I'm going to low-key disagree at this point, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Look at Rise, they have a 2-2 split. It's not a crazy 2-2 split. They're still able to support each other, but that 2-2 split means that if Phase 3 shifts heavily up north, the two teams of Roshock are able to shift up north. If the circle goes south, the two players up north are going to be able to go down south. So I get your theory, but at this early stage of the game, you want to have that variability. You want to have those options in front of you.
Well, now you gotta commit. Look where the zone's just gone and done.
There you go.
It's almost as if we knew that the zone was going to make its decision very soon for some of these players. Severny, there's a player knocked inside it. Influence Rage on the move now too. Boring Protocol. All these teams heading north, and VIVO keyed, making the safest of all the rotations out of any team right now.
They certainly have. I'm curious to see if it's still going to work out for them. Time is important when you have this Phase 3 shift. You're later on to the game. The teams are more likely to cluster up. Safe rotations have its strengths, but they also have their weaknesses. Infinity shifting up north to encapsulate the majority of Severny is honestly ill-advisable. I'd prefer to see, with their split that they have, maybe the warehouse that's to the southeast of Severny, because that still gives a lot of high ground to a more centralized position that's outside of shooting range without committing too much to the center of the circle.
And Rose committing an absolute crime onto Swagoon while all that's going on. Swagoon drops on down to the ground, and Mafioso, he's standing up for his boys, Lazarus and Alpha 7. We've seen this fight before in a different location tonight, as last time it happened in El Pozo. This time, Alpha 7. Revo's the anchor. The anchor is oh so important because it just holds everything together. Some people call it an anchor. You could nearly call it the glue too.
Definitely. Many ways to put the phrase, but it doesn't matter. It's all about the actions that follow through with it. Little bit of action potentially going to break out between Team Queso, Boring Protocol, and INTZ on that western side of the circle. Honored Souls, off the back of taking down BULUC, CHABTAN down to Watertown, were able to move across the Kidney Island into the northern part of the river, down on that southwestern edge of the circle.
Yes, there's a lot of downed players when you look at that mini-map over at this section. Lazarus, oh, we're just going to watch Fierce. Lion drives off into the distance, leaving his friend to his fate. And really, Lion, this is probably the best opportunity you can make. You got to be a solo. You got to do it right. Keep your head down and maximize your possible point return. Although this is a shack that I think as a solo can be incredibly dangerous to play.
It can. But because it's more centralized in the circle, it is just that little bit of a safety procedure. And I would argue it's the kind of compound that you don't really want to push as a full squad. So it low-key makes it a bit safer. Circle centers up, line still in play. So that's still a positive. And on the edge of the circle, even more likely that a team isn't really going to push them unless they feel like there's nowhere else to go. Maybe Infinity could do that, but because they didn't take that warehouse position overlooking the compound that Lion's gone onto, they have a lack of information, so they're going where they have the information, which is on the very northern edge of the circle.
Yeah, now they're climbing up that hill south of shooting range, and Rise have a very similar mindset as well. Mufasa claiming center zone territory, but I'll keep an eye on the map to see if he's making it a home or just moving on somewhere else. INTZ have a nice little split in there as well. And for the first time tonight, I'm looking at a zone, and it's looking more standard. You have a couple of teams playing center and a lot of teams on the edge.
A big reason why a lot of teams are on the edge leading into these circles is because obviously the circle previously had the water in play, so that when it shifted up the north of the river, it does kind of limit your movability into those next circle. But also, that shooting range hill is so difficult to deal with. There's always a higher ground, so locking down a centralized area comes with a lot of risks as VIVO Keyed punish Team Queso on the western edge of the circle.
Yeah, Diego. There's only two members of VIVO Keyed again, and somehow they seem stronger when there is just two of them in play. Infinity Esports, 4 eliminations. Alpha 7 with 6-4 men up. This engagement, though, for the West. Everywhere else, people making their move, and VIVO Keyed. If I were them, I would keep doing this. Pick up these elimination points. You're only at 2, Imperium. So, where you can find the points, especially where they are on the table, you gotta get them.
Indeed, and another elimination comes through, so it is a guaranteed one. Will Diego be able to get the revive onto Cielo? No, because Cielo is way further away. Diego's on his own. Born Protocol coming into this late part of the game as a full squad is very healthy, not only compared to what we've seen from them in the past, but also their ability to control that shooting range hillside from the lower ground, sweep through, cover their backs, cover their angles, and then take it circle by circle, possibly come out with a chicken dinner.
Chicken dinner to finish the night will go down so well for any team that's involved right now. Serving up a couple of nades up the hill. Boring Protocol making their way on over. INCO in the distance, 1 member down. Let's jump over, though, to Alpha 7, as I think that was... We just witnessed the removal of loops from this game, as their night is now over as well. Black Dragons fighting with INCO, spraying through the window as Talons reposition himself. He's going to play this fight from the outside of the building and keep the Dragons on their toes. Moving in, though, the Nicholas is down, and this could be a vital res for them. Hopping over to the other side of the map, we will see QUESO and Boring Protocol fighting it out.
Knock connected onto Boring Protocol. I don't know if it was by INTZ or Team QUESO. I would argue it was most likely INTZ, as INTZ have the hard cover and the body advantage in that area of the map. The circle shifts over to the east. It's great for Rise, who've joined back up as the full squad in the perfect time and have a little bit of building as cover. It's also very positive for Alpha 7, who played on a big spread on that eastern side and being rewarded with the dominant level of control over Infinity, who are in their own fight with the final player, VIVO Kid.
Yeah, much better day by Alpha 7. This is what their fans will want to see. I also want to see Diego continue to assault players on the edge of the zone. He's a solo, but he's having some fun with it. Nito down, not quite out. Blue zone gets involved, and Diego's only got one first aid kit, so he can't afford to stay in the blue for all too long. And another good decision. Get out of there. Move to the north as well, so the terrain will provide you some cover.
He was a little bit lucky because Alpha 7 got involved in third party, that player who was on the high ground, stopping VIVO Kid from moving in. So that's very positive stuff, and he finishes the side of Infinity off.
Yeah, Team QUESO also finished off, as all of that dip is now gone. Zone, you said it before, really suiting Rise in the center of that zone, and they're getting crashed.
Boring Protocol, can we please move over to the crash? Because Rise are overall getting the better of them. A little bit of a third party from INCO. They come in a bit late. However, off the back of a broken, beaten, scarred Rise, the opportunity is there. Come on, please stop showing Diego observers. There you go. It's crashing in onto Rise.
Yeah, multiple teams pushing this compound because the terrain really is a little bit more difficult to play. Zren dancing around the windows again, forcing Rise up the stairs. Zren isn't going to give them a moment's rest. Nunez in the bathroom and have the reinforcements. There's another crash here, Imperium.
And even Alpha 7 are getting involved from the high ground above. This is an absolute massacre.
Oh, I absolutely love it. This is everything you want in the final game. Rise down and out. 4 teams left alive. VIVO Kid, INTZ, Black Dragons, and Alpha 7. And that's another team wiped on out. Diego, 3 eliminations still alive. It's a 4v4v1 situation for the win at the end. And Alpha 7 pushing so hard with 12 eliminations already.
The knock with the nade by Revo onto Talents puts them in firm control on the high ground. A second connects. Revo's on fire right now.
Oh, this is the Alpha 7. The fans want. I've said that before, but I truly mean it. They have turned up big time today. They might even hit 70 plus points on today's tally. That's how good of a performance they have put in. Black Dragons forced into the wall section of this compound. And Diego is just sneaking on up in the background as well. Perfect nade served on up by Mafioso as Black Dragons are down. They're down.
He's not going to. He's outside the circle. He's on his own. And Alpha 7 clean it up. I get why he didn't want to get involved, because the second place result is still very much beneficial. And he might not have known how many teams are left alive. But I would love to see him try to get involved and at least put a bit more pressure on the Alpha 7.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see, although I think knowing the situational awareness that VIVO Kid were in, getting those 12 placement points is probably paramount. Black Dragons, definitely 15 as well. Alpha 7 getting 32 for their troubles. Rise finally climbing up into the top 5 in a lobby tonight as well. All in all, that was probably not the most structured game I've ever seen, but definitely a really entertaining one to finish the night off.
especially because in the last 2 games we've seen teams who normalized domination in games and normalized super strong results across the previous 2 seasons, but hadn't really shown it consistently across season 5, show that today. Alpha 7 and Vivo Keyed, very good back-to-back results for Vivo Keyed. They can be happy with that. Alpha 7, 32 points, like you mentioned, could have a very strong tally of near 70 points in their 4 games today, and considering they were coming into this game on 213 points, that 32 automatically puts them up to over 245 points.
Yeah, what a day they have had. 17 eliminations in that last one as well. They've come second twice, and I think they had a 26-point game, maybe a 28-point game. 32, I believe it was, to finish off the night. So one of the strongest performances we have seen by any team over any day so far. You put it on par with the day that Honored Souls have had last time out, and the Influence Rage day from the play day before it.
I tell you, you even underestimated their results across today's games, because in the screenshots that I have, I missed I think 1 game. No, actually no, I haven't missed 1 game. Yeah, I think I've missed 1 game, but the game that Alpha 7 weren't competing in, they've had 26 points, 22 points, and this 32-point game. So really kind of, that's over 80 points in their 3 games alone. So yeah, a massive day for Alpha 7. It still only puts them in 9th, but look how close they are to 2nd place and even 3rd place.
It's one of those ones on the movement up the table scale. It doesn't have a massive impact at first glance. Although when you consider how tight the point situation is, it makes a massive difference, and it means going in to the final play day, Alpha 7 have so much more to gain. Going into that final play day, there still is 9 teams in with a chance of finishing in the top 3. It'll be difficult for Boring Protocol, although everyone else, it's going to be so tense. We're going to have hot drops, we're going to have tense teams hiding it out, although I think, you know what I just spotted, and this has completely derailed me. I love symmetry. Look at Lutz.
Yeah, 130, 130. It's like Thanos, balances all things should be, right? Yeah, super positive, and that leads into what I kind of wanted to highlight, and unfortunately, what I kind of speculated came through. Infinity Esports, yes, okay, they had a bit of a overall bad day today, but again, those lack of eliminations, it's their downfall when it really matters. The scope is there to finish 3rd. I just worry that what we see from Alpha 7 aggression wise, even Rise aggression wise, Vivo Keyed as well, I know they're already in 2nd, the task is just too hard for them to achieve. Honored Souls, on a good day, they've developed such a high level of aggression. Can't count out INCO as well, for example, and even the North American side of Nova, right? They did have a better day today overall, and they're still in 6th. Like you said, big shape up for tomorrow's final 5 games, 4 for each team.
It's everything you could want and more. I won't be here for the action, but I'm so happy that there's still so much to be decided in that final day, and unfortunately I won't be able to watch it, but I'm definitely going to check out that VOD because I'm so invested into the America's Elite League right now. And we're going to jump on into the next set of stats as we look at your MVP for the whole tournament, and a little bit of moving and shaking again.
Yeah, Influence Rage, of course their consistency speaks for itself, and I suppose we didn't mention them in the overall standings for obvious reasons. It's good to at least highlight their players individually. That's one of the big positives for me in this top MVP ranking. Nino, taking off the top spot, he still has 4 more games to whip it away from Lil Boy. It's going to be easier said than done, as also Law is on his back. It's a lovely influence rate sandwich.
It is. Another sandwich to talk about today. Nino, though, his rating did fall by quite a bit today, which kind of goes hand in hand with the Honored Soul style of play of all or nothing. Looking at the top kills on the day as well, and it's even better than yesterday. 16, 14, and 11 as your top 3.
Wow. Like 30 eliminations between 2 Alpha 7 players alone today. That's what we have come to know and love from Alpha 7. You touched upon it during the games. And I actually even had noticed that Korea had jumped up 4th in the either 4th or 5th in the top MVP. So yeah, big day for Alpha 7. Finally, it's good to see them wake up in that regard and maybe say, hey, now it's the final couple of days. Look, we'll put on our try-hard boots and kind of show the lobby that we were just having fun the first couple of days. We still 4 more games to go, like I said. Can they climb up to the top 3?
Well, it is all to be found out tomorrow. This is, of course, my sign-off for America's Elite League this season, so I want to give a massive thank you to you, Imperium, for being here with me every day on the broadcast this season. Massive thank you to Matic for being entertaining. You're really fun to work with, Matic. It's a pleasure, as always. The observers, the staff, the players, the viewers, thank you all for putting up with me this season.
Couldn't have said about it myself, and honored to cast. I didn't. Was that like a cold throw, Gibson? Or no, was that a pat?
Oh, we're back.
Okay, Mavic. Okay. You know what? It's fine. I don't want to close out. No. Look, just to end off, a pleasure to work with you this season, Gibson. Thank you for all the funny entertainment. I hope it put a smile on the viewers' faces. I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday for the final day of America's Elite League. Join us, be there, be square, and have a lovely evening.
Oh, that